Chapter 3692. Ling Han scratched his head and said, "Do you not have eyes, or do I really not have hair?" The Buddha race wasn't a race with a specific bloodline. Anyone could become a Buddha as long as they were willing to convert. But to join the Buddha race, the first step was to shave and get rid of the 3,000 strands of worry, which meant to let go of everything in the past. Luo Xian stared at Ling Han's hair. Maybe his hair was produced by a secret force. This is real. Ling Han was furious and blasted a baleful aura at Luo Xian. Luo Xian felt pain in his sea of consciousness, and he almost screamed. No matter how many times he suffered such attacks, he couldn't get used to it. It always made him feel unbearable pain. "I will let you die a horrible death." He gritted his teeth and said, "Die." He blew lightly on the oil lamp. Instantly, the flame that had been only the size of a soybean suddenly soared up, and a glossy green flame shot towards Ling Han. It was ghost fire. Ling Han could clearly see skulls popping out from within the green flames, their mouths wide open as if they wanted to swallow him whole. "Ah!" The Buddha race chanted loudly to drive away evil. The skulls were indeed affected, but this ghost underworld lamp was a replica of a cardinal treasure. It might not be of a high grade, but the lamp oil was personally refined by Spirit Transformation True Lord, and its power was naturally extraordinary. If Ling Han was at the Spirit Transformation realm, he could shout the 6 words Wisdom King incantation. Even if it was just one word, it would be enough to suppress evil. But the problem was that he was only at the Foundation Establishment realm. If a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator could destroy Spirit Transformation True Lord's means, then it would be unreasonable. "Ha, ignorant fool," Luo Xian said proudly. Now that the will-o'-the-wisps had already surrounded Ling Han had no way out and could only wait for his death. This lamp oil was refined by True Lord Spirit Transformation, and what material was used? Corpse oil of at least caste tripod tier. Damn, no wonder it was so evil. Ling Han's eyes turned sharp. You actually used a corpse to refine weapons. Damn it. A dead person should be reused. That is not a waste. Luo Xian chuckled. Don't worry. Although you're only at the Foundation Establishment stage, I won't waste it. I'll personally refine your corpse into corpse oil. Refine your sister. Ling Han roared. Xiao, the heavenly pattern jade shot out. Luo Xian was immensely pleased with himself, thinking that Ling Han was already a dead crab. Who would have thought that Ling Han would still have such a killer weapon? Under the impact of 30 times the speed of sound, with the distance between the two of them being only about 10 feet, how long would it take? As fast as lightning, the heavenly rune jade pierced through the sea of fire and arrived before Luo Xian's chest. Luo Xian was shocked, but he didn't think much of it. What could a mere concealed weapon do to him? He also used his consciousness to form a telekinesis net to stop the heavenly rune jade. This was a pure contest of telekinesis. However, his expression immediately changed. Fuck, this was too heavy. It was as if a mountain was crushing down on him. It was not something that his divine sense could block. The other party's divine sense was too strong. Casting cauldron, that's right. One had to be at least at the caste tripod realm to be able to blast out such terrifying power. But how could a Foundation Establishment realm practitioner have the telekinesis power of a caste tripod realm? He suddenly realized that it wasn't Ling Han's telekinesis power that was too strong, but it was a telekinesis artifact. The strength of a telekinesis artifact was that it could first be compressed using one's mental strength. It was obviously 5,000 kilograms or even 1,000,000 kilograms, but it could be compressed to a few kilograms. When it was shot out with telekinesis power and reached its maximum speed, it would return to its normal weight. How strong must one's telekinesis power be to block such an attack? It had to be 10,000 or even 1,000,000 times stronger than his opponent. They were both at the Foundation Establishment realm. How was this possible? In an instant, countless thoughts flashed through Luo Xian's mind. He hurriedly pushed the oil lamp to block while tilting his head to avoid the attack. But, with a crisp sound, blood splattered. Luo Xian's right hand was smashed into pieces, and he naturally lost his grip on the oil lamp, which flew in an arc in the sky. Ah! Luo Xian screamed. One of his hands had been smashed, and it was naturally painful. What pained him even more was that with one hand missing, his combat strength would drop drastically. How would he be able to be ranked among the prodigies in the future? Killing people and refining corpses, heaven and earth cannot tolerate it. Ling Han charged over. I'll send you on your way. Luo Xian hurriedly pulled himself together. Now was not the time to cry out in pain. He chased after the oil lamp. Now that he was missing a hand, his combat strength had dropped drastically. He had to rely on the power of his artifact, or else he would really be smashed into pieces by Ling Han. How could Ling Han let him have his way? He activated so close, yet worlds apart. Peng, he crashed into Luo Xian. Luo Xian saw that his fingertips were about to touch the ghost underworld lantern, but a huge force assaulted him, and his body involuntarily flew sideways. No! Seeing that he was getting further and further away from the ghost underworld lantern, he let out a loud roar. Ling Han snorted and reached out to grab the ghost underworld lantern. But just as his hand reached out, a strong sense of danger arose in his heart. He hurriedly withdrew his hand and activated the starlight screen without hesitation. Boom, a wave of ghost fire sprayed out and surrounded him. The starlight screen quickly melted. This ghost fire was incomparably powerful. Although its power was not at the cast tripod realm, it was definitely far above that of a normal Foundation establishment realm. Ling Han had no choice but to take out the Primal Chaos Extreme Thunder Pagoda. The pagoda floated above his head, sending down streams of Primal Chaos Chi. Haha! Luo Xian laughed loudly. He had purposely pretended to be angry, but in reality, the ghost underworld lantern had already fused with his divine senses. There was no need for him to actually come into contact with it in order to display its power. If Ling Han came into contact with it at such close range and was surrounded by the ghost fire, he would definitely be burned into a dried corpse. Against the ghost underworld lantern, there was only one way to survive, and that was to run as soon as he saw it. He did not want to give the ghost underworld lantern a chance to display its power. However, his laughter soon came to an abrupt halt. What was going on? Ling Han took out a pagoda, which actually blocked the ghost fire. This was refined by true Lord Spirit transformation, and the ghost fire was enough to threaten a cast tripod realm. Now, it actually could not burn a Foundation establishment realm cultivator to death. No, it could not burn through the treasured artifact defense of a Foundation establishment realm cultivator. Ling Han did not waste any time. Limited by his realm, the power of the Primal Chaos Extreme Thunder Pagoda was also limited. It could not resist the ghost fire for a long time, and he had to end the battle quickly. He rushed out, and his terrifying battle power boiled as he launched a frenzied attack at Luo Xian. Bang bang bang. Luo Xian was exhausted from defending. He was seriously injured, and one of his hands was gone. Naturally, his battle power was greatly reduced. How could he withstand Ling Han's bombardment? Lightning constantly struck out from the Primal Chaos Extreme Thunder Pagoda, and the Primal Chaos Chi also fell, each as heavy as a mountain. Luo Xian was shocked. What kind of treasured artifact was this? It was too terrifying. I can't accept this. He roared to the sky, and tears of blood flowed out of his eyes. In terms of true battle power, he believed that he was stronger than Ling Han, but because Ling Han had too many treasured artifacts, he first crippled one of his hands, and then blocked the ghost underworld lantern, putting him in a desperate situation. Therefore, he couldn't accept this. End of chapter. Chapter 3693. Naturally, Ling Han showed no mercy. Firstly, there was no need to talk about fairness when dealing with someone who used corpse oil as a material for a prized artifact. Secondly, the other party had used a prized artifact first. Thirdly, what level was Ling Han at? Human foundation building was unfair to extreme foundation building. So what if he used a treasured tool? He forcefully suppressed his opponent, and each of his moves was fatal. Who are you? Who are you? Luo Xian roared. The one who killed you is Niu Jianhua. Ling Han said indifferently. Anyway, that guy had already taken the blame for him so many times, it did not matter if he took another blame. As for Ling Han, he had never been to the mystic moon planet before. There couldn't possibly be anyone who would associate the human-grade low-level alchemist Ling Han with the great thieves of the Mystery Realm, right? Niu Jianhua, Niu Jianhua. Luo Xian gritted his teeth. He knew that there was no way he would be able to escape death today. He was currently using a certain technique to carve the name of the person who had killed him. In the instant that he died, the name would appear on his Sex Anima Destiny spirit tablet. Someone would definitely avenge him. Haha, Niu Jianhua, do you think that you can kill me in this secret realm without anyone knowing? Laughed Luo Xian. You're wrong. I have my own methods to notify my sect. Are you threatening me? Ling Han didn't stop attacking. At this point, how could he give up halfway? Not bad. Luo Xian said coldly, if you don't want to be hunted down by the Earth Ghost sect forever, you'd better stop now. We're of the same generation, but if you kill me, you'll become a mortal enemy of the Earth Ghost sect. Ling Han laughed. I'm a Taoist of the Buddhist race. Why would I be afraid of demons and monsters like you? Fuck, didn't you say that you weren't a member of the Buddha race? Why are you a Tao child of the Buddha race now? Luo Xian was a little confused and even a little shaken. He wondered if the identity Ling Han had given him was fake. Ling Han executed the 3 strikes of the war god once again and attacked Luo Xian. Even when Luo Xian was at his peak, it was already extremely difficult for him to receive these 3 moves. Now that he had lost an arm, how could he block them? He barely managed to block the first 2 moves, but when it came to the 3rd move, he was blasted away. The chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda also launched a double attack. The power of thunder and the chaotic aura intertwined. This power was also incomparably terrifying. Bam Luo Xian fell to the ground, a burnt smell wafting from his body. Dozens of bones were broken. Who exactly are you? He forced himself to raise his head and look at Ling Han. Niu Jianhua, Ling Han said. He punched out, and heavenly flames swept over, burning Luo Xian to ashes. Ding! A ring fell to the ground. This was Luo Xian's spatial artifact. Ling Han put it away unceremoniously. Then, he used the chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda to suppress it and put the ghost underworld lantern into his spatial artifact. Since Luo Xian was dead, the spiritual sense he had left in the underworld ghost lantern was naturally annihilated. It was no longer a threat to Ling Han. How to deal with this evil artifact is a problem. Ling Han frowned. This kind of evil artifact obviously could not be sold, and he himself could not use it. Forget it. In the future, if he refined the materials, he should be able to forge other treasures. Ling Han sorted out his emotions and continued to advance, chasing after them. His battle with Luo Xian had indeed taken up some time. After walking for about half an hour, he also walked out of the mountainous region. A plain appeared in front of him. Before long, he had reached the end of the plain. There was a tree there. It was a very strange tree. Its leaves were pitifully small, only the size of soybeans. However, there were many huge fruits growing on it. These fruits were really big, and they were of all shapes and sizes. Some looked like humans, some like wolves, some like eagles, and some like fish. They hung on the tree and were heavy. The branches were bent from the weight, making one worry that they would be unable to bear the weight and break. The branches of the tree were as black as iron, and the leaves were scarlet red, as if they were dyed with blood. However, the fruits were pure white. In contrast, they were exceptionally distinct. There were many people under the tree. Hong Tianbu and Jiu Yi were all people who had fought over the ice origin stone. They were all sitting on the ground, raising their heads to look at the tree. They did not move for a long time, as if they were not afraid of breaking their necks. Ling Han was curious, and he walked over with large strides. However, no one paid attention to him. Just at this moment, a fruit on the tree broke off from the branch and landed heavily on the ground. No one fought over it? Ling Han looked left and right. He saw that everyone was sitting steadily, without the slightest intention of getting up to fight over it. This fruit was too ripe. It cracked open as soon as it fell, and instantly endless divine light surged. Looking closely, there were many symbols within this light. At this moment, everyone revealed an eager expression. Xiao, a divine light shot out, shooting toward the northwest. Instantly, the people in that direction began fighting over it. They all leaped toward that light, as if they wanted to collect it. Just as those people were busy fighting, another divine light shot out, striking toward the east. Ling Han just happened to be in that direction. Seeing that everyone was fighting over it, he also followed the trend and joined in. Get lost. That's mine. Those who block me shall be killed without mercy. Everyone roared, and they all unleashed powerful moves, attacking indiscriminately. Ling Han humphed, and a murderous aura shot out. Wang, everyone felt a pain in their sea of consciousness, and their attacks instantly became sluggish. This was only an instant, but Ling Han only needed this instant. He executed so near, yet worlds apart. His speed was extraordinarily fast, and he had already collided with the divine light. Instantly, that divine light surged into his body. Ling Han was instantly filled with boundless enlightenment. It was as if he had become 100 times smarter. Things that he could not understand or comprehend normally instantly became clear and simple. If this could help him comprehend Tao? Ling Han was astonished. What kind of tree was this? It looked so strange, and the fruits that fell could not be eaten, yet they emitted divine light that could help him comprehend Tao. No wonder everyone was fighting over it. This divine light was truly a good thing. Although the fruit was astonishingly large, in reality, it had only shot out 5 beams of light before it was exhausted. The skin of the fruit fell off, and it was completely empty. Each of the 5 rays of divine light had its own master. Ling Han had snatched one, Hong Tianbu had snatched one, and Enchia had snatched one. There was also Chung Daohe and Hong Xinghan. The 2 of them had also snatched one each. Ling Han had heard others call out their names, and thus found out their names. Regardless of whether they had obtained a beam of divine light or not, everyone sat down. Since no one came to cause trouble, Ling Han was happy to continue comprehending. Formation patterns floated in his sea of consciousness. Even though he had already grasped the basics, these formation patterns were too complicated, and it was still extremely difficult to grasp them. Now that his comprehension ability had received an astonishing boost under the help of the divine light, he naturally used it to study formation patterns. In truth, he did not need this kind of additional help in his alchemy and martial art. In less than 10 minutes, this strengthening effect disappeared, and Ling Han had only grasped one formation pattern. Sigh so slow. Reading on the phone was even more refreshing. Chapter 3694. If those array masters heard Ling Han's complaints, they would definitely be furious to the point of blowing their beards and glaring. That was too annoying. Which of them didn't spend 5 or even 10 years comprehending an array pattern? You mastered one in 10 minutes? That was too slow. This was one of the reasons why it was so difficult to become an array master. If you took so long to comprehend one array pattern, then how many years would it take to construct an array that required dozens or even hundreds of array patterns? Moreover, array patterns were also evolving and changing, making it even more difficult to master. Ling Han had always been used to being fast. He felt that he had only mastered one array pattern after entering the immortal path for more than half a year. It was simply too slow. Let's wait for another divine light. Ling Han thought that one divine light could improve his comprehension by 10 minutes. Would 2 divine lights increase his comprehension by 20 minutes? 3 divine lights increase his comprehension by 30 minutes? Next, I'll snatch all the divine lights. But I'll become a public enemy, right? It doesn't matter, I'll just kill them all. Ling Han thought. His killing intent surged, and there was a hint of madness. Wait, why did I become so bloodthirsty? Ling Han quickly recited the 6-word Wisdom King mantra in his heart. Suddenly, a Buddhist sound echoed in his body, and the murderous intent immediately retreated. He couldn't help but be shocked. I seem to have been unknowingly influenced and become bloodthirsty. Is it because of the side effect of the divine light? Or what about this tree? Among the immortal plants that can be used in medicine, there is no such thing. This fruit fell to the ground and shot out divine light, which can improve comprehension. Obviously, it can't be used in medicine, so I didn't see the corresponding immortal seed in the alchemy materials. What the hell is the Gold Origin Holy Land doing? This must be the immortal plant they were talking about, but they want us to kill each other. Ling Han had long suspected the Gold Origin Holy Land's methods. Now he was even more shocked, but he was still not afraid because the Chaos Polaris Thunder Pagoda still contained the real heavenly Tao fire. Although its current power had fallen below that of a sage, the Gold Origin Holy Land had no sage now. At most, he would burn down the Holy Land. Ling Han nodded. Then he had to keep his identity a secret. Otherwise, he would be chased to heavenly starfish in the future. Nyo Janhua, you can continue to make use of your afterglow and take the blame for him. After half an hour, a new fruit fell down with a thud. Get lost. Those who block me will die. Everyone fought fiercely. They were incomparably crazy, and blood could be seen at every turn. Ling Han used so close, yet worlds apart, and combined it with the baleful chi impact, successfully snatching the first divine light. When the second beam of divine light shot out, he snatched it again. Bastard! You've gone too far. This infuriated the people in that direction, and all of them directed their attacks at Ling Han. Ling Han struck out with his baleful aura. Everyone felt a sharp pain in their sea of consciousness, and their attacks involuntarily slowed. Ling Han used so close, yet worlds apart. How fast was his speed? Xiao, he rushed toward the divine light and captured the second one. Damn it! This time, the remaining people were all furious. Even the people in the other directions attacked one after another. If Ling Han continued to snatch it, that divine light would also be his. Ling Han laughed loudly and rushed toward the third divine light that had just appeared. The starlight curtain opened, strengthening his powerful defense. Hong Tianbu attacked. He pointed with a finger, and instantly, endless black light condensed and blasted toward Ling Han. This attack was incomparably fast. When it struck the starlight screen, it actually forcefully created a hole in the light screen. Fortunately, the strength of the finger force had also been exhausted, and it once again transformed into fragments of light. Hong Tianbu was indeed worthy of his reputation. This guy was at the Heaven Foundation establishment stage, and he was originally a super genius. Now that he had merged with the eye of an archaic vicious beast, his battle prowess was truly unfathomable. Ling Han ignored him. Right now, his focus was on snatching the divine light. He sped up and struck out with his baleful aura, seizing the opportunity to snatch it. The third divine light succeeded. However, now everyone was in an uproar and attacked Ling Han. With these people joining hands, even Ling Han did not dare to face them head-on. He hurriedly turned around and ran. The three divine lights were enough for half an hour. So close, yet worlds apart was activated. No one could catch up to him. After Ling Han shook off the crowd, he immediately stopped and circulated the power of the divine light, beginning to comprehend the formation. As expected, the three divine lights gave him 30 minutes of comprehension time. He had grasped another 3 formation patterns. Very good. Ling Han quietly returned and waited for the new fruit to fall. In a little more than a minute, a fruit fell. The divine light shone. This was the time. Ling Han rushed out. So close, yet worlds apart was activated, and he was as fast as lightning. He's here again. That great thief. Nyo Janhua, fuck your ancestors. Everyone gritted their teeth and wanted nothing more than to tear him into 1,000 pieces. Ling Han laughed loudly and struck out with his baleful aura. This had been tried and tested, and no one could escape. Even if it was only for an instant, it was enough for Ling Han. He was faster than everyone else by a sliver, and the divine light entered his body. Damned bastard! Everyone was furious, but what could they do? Ling Han always had a way to paralyze their attacks, and his speed was also faster by a sliver. They could only watch as Ling Han snatched the divine light. This feeling was really terrible. Ling Han laughed loudly. He was like a dragon soaring in the sea, and his speed was extremely fast. He circled around the immortal tree at high speed while waiting for the second divine light to shoot out. Dream on. Everyone was enraged. They all took out their artifacts and attacked Ling Han. But there were too many people now. With the artifacts being used, It instantly created an indiscriminate attack, causing chaos. There was an indescribable aura here that was affecting everyone, causing them to become bloodthirsty. Now that the massacre had begun, no one could stop. A chaotic battle broke out. Everyone's eyes were bloodshot, and they treated everyone as their opponent. They attacked without restraint. But even under such circumstances, there were still people who managed to stay clear-headed. Ling Han had the 6 words Clear King incantation, and in addition Hong Tianbu, and Jui, and Cheng Daohe all had their own techniques. Their bodies glowed with the light of treasures, and they resisted that thing that could confuse one's mind. They were still chasing after the divine light while defending themselves against the frenzied attacks of others. But in terms of speed, they couldn't compare to Ling Han. Out of the 5 divine lights, Ling Han alone occupied 3. That was already enough, and it would be a waste to have more. Ling Han didn't want to continue fighting and turned to leave. In the Golden Origin Holy Land, there were currently 3 outstanding youths staring at a jade wall. The jade wall was actually displaying the scene of Ling Han, Hong Tianbu, and the others fighting under the immortal tree. Old 7, who do you think is the strongest of these people? Asked a white-robed man. His face was as smooth as jade, and there was a small red mole between his eyebrows. The one he called Old 7 was also handsome. He wore a milky yellow robe and carried a long sword on his back. He had a rather carefree air about him. If there were other disciples of the Golden Origin Holy Land present, they would definitely be able to recognize him as one of the famous 12 envoys. The white-robed man, Ho Yongzheng, was ranked 5th. The yellow-robed youth, Shuren, was ranked 7th. The third was Wen Feiwen, who was ranked 9th. Was much more refreshing. Chapter 3696. After everyone was done eating, Duanmu Shui spoke again. Apart from the treasured fruits, I also have a mystical technique. As long as you join the sacred land and become an in-name disciple, I can pass it on to you. Everyone was pleasantly surprised. What kind of technique could be considered a mystical technique by the sacred land? Was it created by a sage? Ling Han was surprised. The slaughter in the mystic realm had been so cruel, but now they were giving them treasured fruits to eat and a mystical technique to cultivate. The contrast was too great. As long as one became an in-name disciple, one would have a lot of freedom. However, the Golden Origin Sacred Land had paid so much just to get a few in-name disciples. Why bother? Ling Han didn't believe that the Golden Origin Sacred Land would be so kind as to not give benefits to their own people. They weren't idiots. Therefore, he couldn't understand why the Golden Origin Sacred Land would be so generous. Mr. Duanmu, may I ask what this mystical technique is? Someone asked. Duanmu Shui nodded. It's called the 7 Sacred Heavens Technique. It can increase your cultivation speed by more than 10 times. Furthermore, the quality of your mystic power will also be greatly improved. In a battle of the same realm, you will obviously be stronger than your opponent. Everyone was surprised and delighted. They were surprised that the Golden Origin Sacred Land was actually willing to pass on such an important technique to them. They were delighted that after learning this technique, their future would be bright and resplendent. Not a single person had any doubts. Ling Han was shocked. How could there be treasures falling from the sky for no reason? Were they all stupid? No, none of them were stupid. The reason why they seemed so confused was probably because they had been affected by the immortal tree. At that time, even he had almost turned into a murderous demon king. Fortunately, he had the 6 words Wisdom King mantra to dispel his inner demons. This wouldn't change a person's mind, but it would definitely affect them, causing them to only see the benefits. Ling Han's heart rang with alarm. What was this Golden Origin Sacred Land doing? They were up to no good. He remained calm and collected. At most, he would summon the heavenly Tao fire. After all, he was Niu Jianhua and couldn't be blamed on him. However, cultivating the 7 sacred heavenly art requires the cooperation of 2 people, one yin and one yang. As the saying goes, solitary yin cannot give birth, solitary yang cannot grow, Duanmu Shui said seriously. She clapped her hands, and another 12 people walked over. Ho Yongzheng, Shuren, and Wen Feiwen were among them. They were the 12 star envoys of the Golden Origin Holy Land. Let me introduce them to everyone. These 12 are the 12 star envoys of the Holy Land. They are also the strongest 12 of the Holy Land's younger generation. Duanmu Shui smiled and said, when cultivating the 7 sacred heavens technique, the faster the person you are paired with will cultivate, the faster your own cultivation speed will increase as well. The 12 star envoys have long since cultivated the yang section of the 7 sacred heavenly art. Now they will make a choice. They will pass down the yin section of the 7 sacred heavenly art. There are also some special ceremonies that need to be carried out. Ho Yongzheng and the others walked over. They didn't spend much time on it, as if they had already decided beforehand. They each found their own training partners. Ling Han's sparring partner was a woman. She was extremely beautiful, and she was also the only female among the 12 star envoys. Her figure was extremely tall, and she was dressed in a red tight-fitting robe that accentuated her impressive figure. She nodded at Ling Han and said, "What a coincidence. Junior brother Niu, my surname is Ma, and my name is Ma Finyu." Was Niu and Ma considered a coincidence? Ling Han chuckled and said, "I'll have to disappoint Miss Ma. I don't intend to enter the Holy Land and cultivate the 7 sacred heavens technique." As soon as he said that, everyone was stunned. You don't want to cultivate? You don't want to cultivate a cultivation technique that can increase your cultivation speed by at least 10 times? This is a cultivation technique of the Holy Land. Don't you know what the 12 star envoys represent? In every generation, only the most outstanding disciples were qualified to become candidates for the 12 star envoys. They also had to go through countless competitions before they could officially become star envoys. Once they became star envoys, they would be restricted for life. Even if they went missing or died, they wouldn't be replaced or replaced. Star envoys were all powerhouses in the Holy Land in the future. They had the potential to become sect masters. Hence, to be able to cultivate the 7 sacred heavens technique within star envoys, what kind of good fortune was that? You actually refused? Ma Fenyu didn't expect this either. She looked at Ling Han in a daze and didn't know what to say for a moment. Hee, I also don't intend to cultivate the 7 sacred heavens technique. Another voice sounded. Hong Tianbu Shui's expression was a little ugly. Ling Han and Hong Tianbu were the most talented among this group of people, and they were also the most valued by him. Now, both of them actually said no. He snorted and said, "What a joke. The Holy Land imparts techniques, not begging you to learn them." He glanced at the others and asked, "Is there anyone else who doesn't want to learn?" No one spoke. Even if their divine senses weren't affected, they probably wouldn't be able to resist the temptation of the 7 sacred heavens technique. "All right, you guys can leave first." Duanmu Shui waved her hand. Everyone left one after another, leaving only Ling Han, Hong Tianbu, Duanmu Shui, Ma Yufin, and Jiang Jingping. Jiang Jingping was Hong Tianbu's training partner. "You guys really don't want to learn." Duanmu Shui's gentle expression changed to a fierce glint. Ling Han smiled and said, "Didn't Mr. Duanmu just say that the Holy Land's technique doesn't require us to train? Please send us away." He really wanted to take Hong Tianbu down personally and bring him back to the imperial capital. Duanmu Shui sneered, "You want to leave after eating the treasure of my Holy Land?" Hong Tianbu's expression changed, and he said, "As expected, there's a conspiracy behind the imparting of techniques." He had merged with the eye of an ancient ferocious creature, so his willpower was naturally strong. Although his mind was slightly affected, it was far better than the others. Duanmu Shui laughed loudly and said, "Of course, we're not running a charity and specialize in doing good deeds." But what kind of conspiracy could there be in passing on cultivation techniques? Ling Han asked. "You don't need to know about this," Jiang Jingping said. Duanmu Shui smiled and said, "It's fine. Just tell him. He can't run away anyway." He was a life core expert. So what if Ling Han was a 10-star genius? He could slap him to death with one hand. Since he had already said so, Jiang Jingping couldn't object. He only had a gloomy expression and was extremely dissatisfied. He had taken a fancy to Hong Tianbu's aptitude, but the other party had objected. It would be difficult to find another high-quality cauldron. Duanmu Shui said unhurriedly, It's true that the 7 sacred heavenly art can increase your cultivation speed by more than 10 times. However, this is at the cost of your lifespan. So, you can only live for 10 years at most. Ling Han and Hong Tianbu's expressions changed. This was too sinister. But what benefits does it bring to you? Hong Tianbu asked in a low voice. Of course there is. Duan Mushui smiled. Did you forget that you still have a partner? 10 years later, your partner will completely absorb your Dao fruit, and it won't be a problem for you to break through to the next realm. It will save you hundreds or even thousands of years of bitter cultivation. Fuck, so ruthless. Chapter 3697. You guys are really ruthless. Hong Tianbu said. How could a sacred ground be so despicable? You guys only have 2 choices. First then. Second, live for another 10 years. I can guarantee that you guys will live an exciting life. Duan Mushui said. Exciting your head. Ling Han sneered. I'll let you have this chance. Hee, if I am talented enough, I am willing to be a cauldron and contribute to the sacred ground. Rui Mushui said indifferently, this is a great mission. You might only have 10 years of exciting life, but in the future, your lives will be carried on by the envoys and shine on the entire universe. You don't have to sacrifice yourself. You don't have to say anything. Ling Han laughed out loud. You guys are just a sage faction. What are you acting like? Don't forget that you guys don't even have a sage. At most, you only have a few supremacies. How dare you talk about shining on the entire universe? What a joke. How dare you? Jiang Jingping shouted. Duan Mushui waved her hand and said, Young man, everyone has a predetermined fate. Your fate is to become the cauldron of the 12 envoys and burn yourself. Hong Tianbu sneered. He had obtained a personal disciple of a spirit transformation true lord, and his luck was heaven-defying. He even fused with the eye of an ancient ferocious creature and obtained countless secret treasures. Now, a life core realm could trap him? Ling Han shook his head. Old man, do you know that you are planting the seeds of destruction for the sacred ground? Ha ha. Duan Mushui laughed. Jiang Jingping and Ma Yufan also sneered. A mere Foundation Establishment Realm Junior actually dared to say that he wanted to destroy the sacred ground. Wasn't this a huge joke? Not to mention the fact that the sacred ground had a sage artifact and 4 supreme realm supremacies, even a few caste tripod realm experts would be able to easily kill Ling Han. Threatening the sacred ground? Hee, where did he get the courage from? Oh, what methods do you have? Show me. Duan Mushui said. He was bored, which was why he teased such a small fry. Anyway, he had nothing to do. Ling Han smiled. You really want to see? Don't hide it. Use it, Duan Mushui said indifferently. Will you regret it? Ling Han asked again. You only know how to talk glibly. I can't be bothered to waste any more time with you. Duan Mushui sneered. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at Ling Han. A life core warrior made his move. Boom, his aura was like a mountain, crushing everything in its path. Ling Han took out the Primal Chaos Extreme Thunder Pagoda. This time, the treasure no longer concealed itself. Primal Chaos energy descended and lightning flashed. It emitted a great aura that could suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Duan Mushui couldn't help but pause his attack. He stared fixedly at the Primal Chaos Extreme Thunder Pagoda, his eyes almost glowing. That's a saint tool. Lu Yin's heart thumped with excitement. Other than saint tier materials, how could it have such an aura? He couldn't be blamed for not having good eyesight. Even if he was born in a holy land, it was impossible for him to see a saint artifact. Even a saint artifact couldn't be indestructible. Therefore, in order to make the saint artifact last as long as possible, the heaven and earth energy was used to suppress, seal, and slow down its aging. If he could obtain a saint tier material, how strong would he become? Even if he handed it over to the upper echelons of the Holy Land, he would definitely make a great contribution and obtain unimaginable cultivation resources. Not to mention the true self realm, even the sect master realm might not be an extravagant hope. Haha, I didn't expect you to actually have such a treasure hidden on you. Duan Mushui laughed loudly. He continued to stretch out his hand and grab at Ling Han. Ling Han shook his head. I brought this upon myself. With a thought, the 9th level of the Primal Chaos Extreme Thunder Pagoda opened. Boom, a terrifying heavenly Tao flame surged out and transformed into a boundless flame tide. This was the heavenly Tao flame. Even if its power had decreased compared to when it was in the flaming canyon, it could still burn a venerable to death. What a terrifying existence. Boom, the flame tide surged and instantly spread to Duanmu Shui, Ma Yufan, and Jiang Jingping. Ah! The three of them all screamed and revealed expressions of endless fear, but what was the use? When the flames swept past, not even a speck of ash was left behind. They were all extremely indignant, especially Duanmu Shui. He was in the life core tier, and his true battle prowess could instantly kill Ling Han. But in front of the flame of the heavenly Tao, he had become a weakling that could not be any weaker. There was no need to mention Ma Yufan and Jiang Jingping. Although they were the envoys of this generation, a mere foundation establishment realm cultivator was nothing in front of the heavenly Tao flame. Hong Tianbu, on the other hand, was really extraordinary. Ling Han clearly saw that when the heavenly Tao flame surged past, a huge eye appeared above his head and emitted light. It actually petrified the heavenly Tao flame for a moment. Although it was only for an instant, it gave him a chance to escape. He tore a talisman paper, and then with a whoosh he instantly disappeared. This was a talisman soldier similar to the 10,000-mile escape technique. Ling Han was somewhat surprised. It seemed that he had still underestimated Hong Tianbu. He originally thought that the primordial fierce creature's eye that he had fused with would at most be at the sect master level, but looking at it now, it was very likely that it had reached the venerable level. Strange, the heavenly ocean planet was not a low-level planet. At most, it was a mid-level planet, so how could there be a giant like a venerable? Boom, just as he was thinking, the heavenly Tao flame also spread wider and wider, as if it was going to turn the entire Holy Land into a sea of fire. The heavenly Tao flame was too terrifying, and it could even kill venerables. There was nothing that could stop it as it burned its way forward. Fortunately, the further it spread, the slower the heavenly Tao flame would advance. Otherwise, no one would have been able to escape. Even so, the entire Holy Land was in chaos, and miserable screams rang out incessantly. These people could leave, but the immortal stalk could not. As it burned its way forward, the herb gardens along the way were not spared, and were all burned to ashes. Take this opportunity to escape. Ling Han thought to himself, and hurriedly used so close, yet worlds apart, and escaped without a trace. Who dares to be impudent in the Holy Land? A terrifying voice rang out, and then a giant figure appeared in the sky. It was at least 10,000 feet tall, but it seemed to be condensed from light, and did not seem to have a physical body. This was a venerable from the Gold Origin Holy Land. He lived at the peak of the mountain, so he was affected by the heavenly Tao flames slightly later, and thus lost the opportunity to attack immediately. He slapped down with his palm, wanting to extinguish the flame, but this slap only attracted the fire to himself. Not only did the flame not extinguish, but it also burned up along his hand. Boom, his entire body was burning fiercely. The heavenly Tao flame could kill a venerable. Heavens, even venerable Yuan Xiong is no match for it. Could it be that another holy land has invited a holy weapon to attack us? Seeing this, the survivors of the Holy Land all exclaimed in shock. Wang, just at this moment, a golden light soared up from the mountain, and then a golden ruler appeared in the air, emitting an indescribably terrifying aura. Holy weapon, Gold Origin Sky Measuring Ruler. More refreshing. Chapter 3698. The Heaven Measuring Metal Ruler, forged by the Gold Origin Saint in the past, was a true saint tool. As soon as the ruler appeared, endless golden light shone down. The power of heaven and earth was also drawn, condensing endless power of heaven and earth, suppressing the heavenly Tao fire. If the heavenly Tao fire had not been weakened, then even a saint tool would not be able to suppress it. This was a terrifying fire that could burn saints to death. However, the power of the heavenly Tao fire had been weakened, and was no match for a saint tool. However, the heavenly Dao fire was still the heavenly Dao fire. Although the heaven-measuring metal ruler could suppress it, it was not so easy to extinguish it. It could only eliminate the flames bit by bit, which was not something that could be done in a short period of time. It would take at least 8 to 10 days, or even longer. The only good news was that the fire had finally stopped spreading. The people of the Gold Origin Holy Land were furious and confused. What was going on? Which Holy Land had attacked? Otherwise, how could it be that even venerables could not withstand this fire, and even the heaven-measuring metal ruler had to expend so much effort to extinguish it? A Grand Holy Land actually had 2/3 of its territory burned. There was no way to calculate how many people had died, but the herb garden could not be moved, so the losses could be seen clearly. There was only one word to describe it: heavy losses. Which force was it that had to take responsibility and compensate? Every disciple of the Holy Land was furious. They would not let this matter rest, never. Ling Han had already run out of the Holy Land. Now that the situation was so chaotic, who would care about a mere foundation-building cultivator like him? Moreover, he had already removed his armor and mask. The armor was already severely damaged, so he threw it away. The mask could also expose his identity, so he also threw it aside. Now, he was not the Niu Jianhua who had participated in the Gold Origin Fruit Festival, but the young human-level low-level alchemist Ling Han. He first found the Empress and the others, and without saying much, left with them. When they arrived at the next city, Ling Han went out to inquire, and soon received news. The Golden Origin Holy Land had already summoned back 2 venerables who were out and 1 venerable who was in seclusion. With the addition of the venerable who was in charge, the 4 venerables were frantically searching for the whereabouts of the assailants. At first, they suspected that it was done by the other sacred grounds, especially the Scarlet Fire Sacred Ground. Their flaming mirror could spit out flames that could kill supremacies. However, if one were to carefully distinguish the power of the flames, it would be easy to discover that the flames blasted out by the mirror of blazing flame were different. Therefore, this shouldn't have anything to do with the Fire Sacred Land. They traced the source of the flames and finally discovered that the flames had started from the location where the Metal Essence Fruit Festival was held. There were 12 outsiders at the time, and 10 of them had followed the 10 envoys. Only 2 of them had stayed behind. One was Hong Tianbu, the other was called Niu Jianhua. Therefore, this terrifying flame must have something to do with these 2 people. Find these 2. The Gold Origin Holy Lands issued a bounty for Hong Tianbu and Niu Jianhua. Both of them had names and backgrounds, so it wasn't difficult to find them. Hey, how did you become Niu Jianhua? The little lowly licked the candy and suddenly exclaimed, "You've tricked people again." Ling Han laughed loudly. What great truth are you spouting? Since he was sure that this matter didn't involve him, Ling Han decided to return to Heavenly Sea Star. As for Princess Bai Xiao, it was said that those who didn't enter the top 12 had been expelled from the sacred ground, so he had to find a way back. Then he would first find Princess Bai Xiao and let her hitch a ride. Otherwise, she really couldn't return to Heavenly Sea Star. Now that the Gold Origin Holy Land was so badly burned, how could he be in the mood to send these people back? Hey, husband, is this your new wife? The Empress asked. No. Ling Han immediately shook his head, his face full of righteousness. Before, I only had one thought in my mind, and that was how to get you out. How could I be in the mood to flirt with others? That's not necessarily true, the Empress said indifferently. Husband, you are so outstanding that there are too many women who throw themselves at you. It was impossible for a monster race princess to be possible. Yes, father is the most outstanding. Third baby nodded. She was like the Empress, a tsundere type. Okay, don't flatter me. Let's quickly find someone and then go back, Ling Han said. As the main culprit, Ling Han still felt a little guilty. Naturally, he would feel safer if he left as soon as possible. He went to find Princess Bai Xiao. She was in 7 Void City. Everyone who came to participate in the Gold Origin Fruit Festival stayed here. The Gold Origin Holy Land said that they would send them back in the future, but it didn't say how long. Thus, Ling Han easily found Princess Bai Xiao. Hey, these 2 are... Princess Baishao was surprised when she saw the Empress and Hu Niu. She didn't remember Ling Han having these two people by his side. "Oh, they are both my wives," Ling Han said casually. Princess Baishao was instantly stunned. Did he come to participate in the Gold Origin Fruit Festival or to pick up girls? Moreover, he picked up two at once. Ling Han laughed. "We are married long ago, and have groups of children and grandchildren." This was the truth, but how could Princess Baishao believe it? "Look at yourself, you are only 20 years old, and you have grandchildren?" Princess Baishao shook her head secretly. This playboy. If she had known earlier, she would have made her move earlier and pushed Ling Han down. In that case, she would at least be the first madam. What nonsense was she thinking? She didn't like this playboy. They returned, and the shuttle broke through the air, heading towards Heavenly Sea Star. Shuttling through nodes along the way, this was another long journey of half a year. Ling Han didn't feel that time was running out. Although he couldn't cultivate, he could study the array patterns, which required endless time and energy. Unknowingly, half a year passed, and the shuttle finally returned to Heavenly Sea Star. Ling Han couldn't help but think that it would be great if there was a teleportation array on Heavenly Sea Star that led directly to other planets. Then, with just a xiu, he could cross the endless star distance and reach his destination. At most, he would just have to jump between several arrays a few times. Returning to the imperial capital, Ling Han first went to see Lin Luo and the others. As expected of almighty elites who could cultivate to the seventh step in the origin world. Those former seventh-step heavenly venerables had now advanced into the opening aperture tier, and they could reach such heights in a year and a half. Even with the help of cultivation resources provided by Ling Han, it could still be seen that they were very talented. In contrast, because the Empress followed Ling Han to the Mystic Moon Star, they lost a year of cultivation time. Currently, they were only at the blood transformation realm, which was much inferior. Unfortunately, even Lin Luo and the others couldn't cultivate the 7 transformations, 7 bones, and 7 patterns. Since Ling Han was the only one who could do it, then a special case like him could be ignored. He could break the limit in every realm, no matter where he was a genius among geniuses. After entering the immortal path, all of them could become 4-star geniuses or even higher. It wouldn't be long before Lin Luo and Zhou Heng could share Ling Han's burden. Ling Han temporarily lay dormant and studied the array. Chapter 3700. Ling Han patted Xianyuan Dinghua on the shoulder. Be realistic. But if it's just this, it's still not big news, right? It could only be said that Heavenly Sea Star had a glorious history. Xianyuan Dinghua glanced at him. You are too impatient. Can't you wait for me to finish? Ling Han raised his hands. Okay, go ahead. I won't interrupt. Xianyuan Dinghua said, since Heavenly Sea Star once had a saint, of course, it has the inheritance of the saint. Ling Han took it seriously. Now we know the whereabouts of the saint's inheritance. Look at you. You just said you won't interrupt. Why are you interrupting again? Xianyuan Dinghua pointed at him. Ling Han was speechless. You will be beaten up if you talk like this. During the war, the nearby star field was turned into a dead star. Even after the war, no one could enter for tens of thousands of years. They would be killed by the chaotic energy, Xianyuan Dinghua said. When the chaotic energy dissipated a little, some powerful people entered to search for the saint's inheritance, but they never found it. After searching for tens of thousands of years, everyone thought that the saint's inheritance was destroyed in the war. Since then, Heavenly Sea Star has become a small star, and no one cares about it. Xianyuan Dinghua paused and said, until now. What's wrong now? Ling Han asked. Xianyuan Dinghua said, didn't our Heavenly Sea Star become a cage? People like Primordial Immortal and Jiuling Immortal were locked up for thousands of years. They had nothing to do, so they did a lot of research and found some information about ancient times there. There are a few stone tablets, which record the inheritance of Saint Gu Yang. It is said that Saint Gu Yang couldn't find a suitable successor. He was worried that his Tao would be lost when his lifespan was up, so he set up a secret realm to test his descendants. As long as you pass the test, you can get the saint's inheritance. Xianyuan Dinghua was full of envy. If I can get the saint's inheritance, I can kill Spirit Immortal with one slap. Ling Han smiled and did not attack him. Even if one obtained the inheritance of a saint, the height one could reach would depend on one's own talent. Otherwise, wouldn't the Holy Land be filled with venerables and sect masters? The sage's inheritance could indeed allow a martial artist to reach a higher level. However, if casting a cauldron was the original limit, then the most one could do now was to reach the life dance stage. It was impossible for him to break through to the next level. Xianyuan Dinghua had yet to reach the mystic-seeking realm. His talent could only be considered average. In the future, it would be his limit to leap over the immortal gate. Wanting to kill perfected Lord Spirit transformation with a slap was destined to be a beautiful dream. Right now, the 4 true monarchs are all searching for the location of that secret realm. Xianyuan Dinghua said, "It said that the mystic realm has opened in the past tens of thousands of years, but no one has passed the test. The mystic realm should be opening soon. I must seize this opportunity and soar into the sky." Xianyuan Dinghua patted Ling Han on the shoulder. "From now on, let me protect you." Ling Han couldn't help but laugh and nodded. "All right." His heart was moved. Although he could cultivate the Great Sun Lotus technique, that was the reward for passing the lowest level of the Black Iron 9-storied pagoda. How good could it be? If he could obtain a sage's mental cultivation method, then his cultivation speed would definitely increase by a level. Look, it had been more than a year, but he hadn't made much progress in the human foundation building stage. His cultivation method was really too weak. There were naturally other reasons. For example, he had spent an entire year traveling through the stars and couldn't cultivate at all. Ling Han secretly decided that if the mystic realm opened, he would definitely join in. "I reckon that the mystic realm is in our Xianbei nation. Otherwise, the 4 perfected lords of spirit transformation could have searched for it themselves. Why would they spread the news? They must have wanted His Majesty's cooperation," Xianyuan Dinghua said. Ling Han agreed. Otherwise, the 4 perfected lords of spirit transformation would have made a fortune in silence. Could it be that the reason why the primordial lords of spirit transformation escaped from the cage but didn't hide from the Azure Dragon Empire was because of the inheritance of Sage Gu Yang? It was very possible. It was absolutely worth the risk for the inheritance of a sage. Maybe they would have the chance to become a sage. At that time, it would be a piece of cake for them to seek revenge from the Azure Dragon Empire. Even if they couldn't become a sage, they could go one step further and become a sect master-level expert. The world was so big, where couldn't they go? Ling Han wanted to refine the Greenwood spiritual restoration pill, but he couldn't find the Fox Greenwood. It was controlled by the 5 spirit transformation realm forces and couldn't be bought. The current Heavenly Sea star seemed to be in its enlightenment period. The market was not healthy, and the only alchemist above the immortal path was probably Ling Han. In such an environment, how could immortal-grade herbs be circulated? Ling Han couldn't help but think of leaving Heavenly Sea Star. Here, his alchemy skills couldn't be displayed at all. However, it was better to wait for the mystic realm first. A few days later, Ling Han was studying the formation, but his heart suddenly palpitated. He opened the door and looked into the distance, only to see a pillar of light soaring into the sky. It was even brighter than the sun. After a while, the light beam disappeared. An hour later, the light beam reappeared as if it was sending a signal. There were many versions of this light. Some said that a treasure was about to be born, some thought that a powerful expert was refining an immortal pill, and that it was a beam of celestial light. Some said that an innate divine body was about to be born. Many people believed each version. But in the end, these were all proved to be rumors. This was a mystic realm that was about to be born, and this mystic realm was the hidden moon mystic realm where one could obtain the inheritance of Saint Gu Yang. Ling Han took the Empress and the others to the place where the light beam came from. It was an ordinary place. It was a wasteland with only a few weeds growing occasionally. It seemed to have little vitality. But every hour, a thick beam of light would soar into the sky and disappear into the depths of the universe. Where was the mystic realm? It hadn't been officially opened yet, so there was no entrance. Ling Han stayed nearby. Once the mystic realm opened, he would be the first to enter. And in the next few days, the situation was turbulent. Because the secret territory was within the Xianbei country, how could the primordial true sovereign and the others just sit back and watch? They brought a large number of experts with them to pressure Chen Fengyan. It was obvious that once the secret territory opened, they would enter as well. Not only that, but in various places of Heavenly Sea Star, teleportation arrays flashed and many young geniuses poured in. These young geniuses carried letters of at least the sect master level, hoping that Chen Fengyan, primordial true lord, and other experts would give them face and let them enter the mystic realm. Chapter 3701. Why have so many extraterrestrial visitors been alarmed? It turned out that the light of this secret land was so bright that it could be seen from several nearby star areas. The powerful figures calculated and found that the Yin-Yang secret land was opening again, so they opened the transmission array and sent their descendants to the Heavenly Sea Star. Because Heavenly Sea Star was a large planet in ancient times, there was no lack of interstellar teleportation arrays. But later, Heavenly Sea Star disintegrated and its level plummeted, so no one was teleported here anymore. This teleportation required a large amount of resources. Even the Holy Lands would feel the pinch. However, it was different this time. The Hidden Moon Realm was directly related to the inheritance of a saint. Even a spirit transformation realm power would grit their teeth and send their juniors over. Regarding the masked moon secret realm, those visitors from the outer space knew more. This place only opened once every 10,000 years, and the condition to enter was to be at the Foundation Establishment Cauldron Forging Realm or above. However, their cultivation would be reduced to the Foundation Establishment Realm. 10,000 years ago, the masked moon mystic realm had actually opened, but no one had obtained the sage's inheritance. This time, the masked moon mystic realm was about to open. Therefore, those who knew about the masked moon mystic realm immediately sent their people over to fight for the opportunity. Who wouldn't be tempted by the inheritance of a saint? However, the higher the cultivation of the person, the greater the price to pay. In any case, even sect masters would have their cultivation weakened when they entered the secret realm, so what was the point of such a big shortcoming? Therefore, they only sent their juniors over with a letter. No one on Heavenly Sea Star would dare to disrespect them. If they were really angered and teleported here at all costs, wouldn't Heavenly Ocean Star be destroyed in an instant? When the Heavenly Sea Star recovered, many of the best of the younger generation came, such as Niu Jianhua and the others. They wanted to get top Foundation Establishment divine stones here and snatch opportunities. But in comparison, the previous group of people could only be considered ordinary. Would the true geniuses of the great sects lack such low-level materials? Therefore, when the inheritance of the sage was involved, a true genius finally came. It was said that the geniuses who came this time were extraordinary. There was no lack of 3-star geniuses, and it was said that there were even 4-star geniuses. Because the basic requirement to enter the mystery realm was to reach the foundation level, Ling Han sent the Empress, Hu Niu, and the others back to the imperial capital first. That was the main camp of Black North Country. At present, no one dared to act recklessly, so it was relatively safe. When Ling Han returned, only Princess Bai Xiao and 6th baby were left with him. Princess Bai Xiao had advanced into the Zhuji tier, so she naturally had to enter the masked moon mystery realm. 6th baby's invisibility technique had great uses, so he was left behind by Ling Han. The rest of the 6th baby was in the imperial capital to protect the Empress and the others. Tang Yun also stayed in the imperial capital. She had already been conquered by the Empress's charm, sticking to the Empress every day like a shadow. Since the Empress didn't come, she naturally couldn't be bothered to pay attention to Ling Han. Besides, she couldn't enter the mystic realm. Everyone was waiting. Since the secret realm was glowing, it meant that the opening time was near. Some people were very low-key, just waiting in the dark, but some people were very arrogant. They were born on a high-level planet, and there were great figures like sect masters or even venerables behind them. Coming to such a backward planet, how could they know how to restrain themselves? Who dared to touch them? Who dared to punish them? Weren't they afraid that the big shots behind them would immediately come through the teleportation array and raise Heavenly Sea Planet to the ground? In the past few days, there were endless fights, and there were also slick extraterrestrial geniuses who held banquets to broaden their connections and prepare to enter the mystery realm. For example, although Ling Han was the first local genius, he was completely ignored. On such a backward planet, what kind of genius could there be? Even the strongest was only in the spirit transformation tier. In the eyes of these extraterrestrial geniuses, the saints' inheritance in the masked moon mystery realm was completely prepared for them. They only needed to enter, stretch out their hands, and they could obtain the saints' inheritance. Coming out of the mystery realm was the difficult part, because no force would let anyone easily take away the saints' inheritance, and there would definitely be a war. A large number of people gathered here, and it might not be a day or two. Therefore, many tents were set up nearby, and some people were even more exaggerated. There was even a small courtyard in their spatial instrument, and when they were thrown there, they looked just like the locals. There were all kinds of people, even geniuses. Some were diligent, some were casual, some were pure, and some were lustful. Recently, there had been more than one incident of women being molested, which made people panic. Many women now didn't dare to go out. With the increase of people, a small market was formed here. After all, every planet had its special products, and it was rare to sell them across the star field. This was a very good opportunity. Ling Han and Princess Baishao were also very interested, so they brought sixth baby to join in the fun. There were many of these things, and there were also many good things. Unfortunately, they all needed to be traded with Dao stones, and no one accepted the jade seeds. Ling Han only had 3 Dao stones on him, but there were a lot of 1 or 2 star materials. He had robbed so many people before, so naturally he had gained a lot. He also set up a stall, and Princess Baishao was the center of attention. A great beauty could always attract people's attention. As expected, people kept coming over, but after seeing the beauty, most of them would also look at the goods on the stall. If they liked it, they would naturally make a move. In fact, the best seller was the silver arowana. This kind of treasure belonged to the Holy Land, but there were only so many silver arowana. How could Ling Han take it out? He couldn't even split it among his own people. After selling for an entire morning, Ling Han had hundreds of Dao stones in his hands. He decided to pack up first and see if there was any green foxwood. If he refined the greenwood spirit mending pill and combined it with the silver arowana, his cultivation would definitely increase greatly. After looking around, he really did find the green foxwood. It was very old and sold for 30 Dao stones each time. However, he only needed 1/10 of it to refine pills, so he could refine it many times. "Friend, are you buying the green foxwood to refine the greenwood spirit mending pill?" the stall owner asked. "Yes." Ling Han nodded. The stall owner revealed a surprised expression. "You know how to concoct pills?" "I know a little." Ling Han was very modest. "Then if you refine the greenwood spirit mending pill, can you sell me a few?" The stall owner said, "In return, I can sell you green foxwood that is even older." Ling Han's eyes lit up. Of course, he was full of confidence in his own alchemy abilities. If he had a large supply of green foxwood, then the people around him would be able to guarantee their cultivation speed when they embarked on the path of immortality. "It's a deal." Ling Han paid the Dao stone and was about to call Princess Baishao to leave, but when he looked left and right, he could not see the demon princess. Now where is she? He couldn't help but feel strange. "Dad, that monkey princess went over there. She said that someone was selling a strange stone. She went to take a look." Sixth baby said. Monkey Princess Ling Han couldn't help but be angry and amused at the same time. When did the 7 milk babies give Princess Baishao such a nickname? He carried sixth baby and walked towards the place where Princess Baishao was. It wasn't far from him. However, before he could reach the place, he heard a loud noise. Chapter 3702. Scram. Princess Baijiao's voice rang out. "What a hot beauty, but I like it." Another man's voice rang out, sounding extremely shameless. "Beauty, follow me in the future. I'll buy you anything you want." "I've already told you to scram." Princess Bai Xiao shouted once more, her tone filled with intense anger. "TSK, your face is so white and tender. Come, let Big Brother touch it." That man said again. Boom, the sound of battle rang out, and an energy wave surged over. Ling Han's gaze sharpened. Someone was taking liberties with Princess Bai Xiao. Although he didn't have any thoughts about this demon race princess, there was no reason for him to let others bully her. "Ha, it really is a rose with thorns. Big Brother likes it. Lecture." Ling Han walked over and saw that Princess Bai Xiao was in an intense battle with a green-robed man. The man looked to be about 25 or 26 years old and had a frivolous expression. His attacks were even more despicable as he stared at Princess Bai Xiao's face, chest, and thighs while extending his claws. This made Princess Bai Xiao extremely fearful. Even if she could knock him down with a single strike, she wasn't willing to take the risk of letting him touch her jade body. She could only widen the distance between them and attack through the air with her strength. However, the green-clothed man closed in step by step, and every move he made was despicable, causing Princess Bai Xiao to angrily rebuke him again and again, yet she was helpless to do anything. This meant that even though the green-clothed man was shameless, his strength was extremely formidable. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to force Princess Bai Xiao into such a sorry state. Now, this group of extraterrestrial visitors was here to seize the saint's inheritance. Not to mention the sect masters and venerable forces, even the successors of the Holy Land would be tempted. Wouldn't it be better to grasp two saints' ultimate arts? Therefore, the overall strength of this batch of young people was much stronger than the previous batch, be it in terms of realm or talent. Ling Han naturally couldn't bear to watch any longer. His figure flashed and arrived between Princess Bai Xiao and the azure-clothed man. The green-robed man frowned, and a look of disgust appeared on his face. His right hand slapped out at Ling Han. Boom! The image of a moon in the sky illuminating the world appeared. Ling Han snorted and activated the demon monkey fist, clashing head-on with his opponent. Boom! The green-robed man's expression immediately changed, and he couldn't help but retreat repeatedly. He retreated 9 steps before he could stabilize his footing, but his face was completely red, and he spat out a mouthful of blood with a sound. Hey, Ho Qingbai was actually injured by someone. Someone immediately cried out from the side. Ho Qingbai is a Heaven Foundation establishment 2-star genius. The person who defeated him must be a Paramount Foundation establishment. That person should be a native of Heavenly Ocean Star. I've seen his holographic image before. I think his name is Ling Han. He and another genius, Hong Tianbu, are known as the Imperial Capital's 2 prides. The 2 prides of the Imperial Capital. Ha, I'm going to die of laughter. Even a mere native dares to boast like this. Don't forget, Ho Qingbai was just defeated by him. He's probably a 1-star genius at Foundation establishment. It wouldn't be strange if he could defeat Ho Qingbai. Originally, the crowd didn't take it to heart and were just looking at their own goods. However, Ho Qingbai was actually sent flying by a single punch from a native. This naturally attracted the attention of the crowd and they all walked over. Hey, this person's life aura isn't very strong. Someone sensed Ling Han's life aura and immediately revealed a surprised expression. It seems like he's only at Mortal Foundation establishment. How is that possible? A Mortal Foundation establishment 2-star genius can defeat a Heaven Foundation establishment 2-star genius. What kind of combat power does he have? He has to be at least 4 stars. 4 stars is such a backward celestial body. Is that even possible? It's indeed impossible. Everyone shook their heads. They all looked down on Heavenly Ocean Star. Naturally, they wouldn't believe that Ling Han was a 4-star genius. This was like someone saying that a saint was born on a small celestial body. What a joke! Ho Qingbai rubbed his chest, calming the discomfort in his body. His eyes shone brightly as he stared at Ling Han. You actually dared to meddle in my business, and even dared to injure me. You must be tired of living. Ling Han put his hands behind his back and said indifferently, kneel down and apologize to my friend. Then I'll spare your life. Ho Qingbai couldn't help but laugh. It was ridiculous that a native dared to ask him to kneel and beg for mercy. "Gigolo, you don't even know who I am." Ho Qingbai sneered. He was not stupid. Before he flirted with Princess Bai Xiao, he had already checked her identity. After all, it was very likely that there were real saintesses and imperial princesses here. He was courting death. But Princess Bai Xiao was a native. What kind of background could she have? That was why he was unscrupulous and treated Princess Bai Xiao as a meal. But who would have thought that another native would jump out and actually dare to ruin his plans and even injure him in public? This was intolerable. "I am Ho Qingbai. My father is Huanlin sect's leader, Ho Longxing, a minor realization expert," he said proudly. "What kind of cultivation does the minor realization realm have? As long as one of them was dispatched, they could sweep across heavenly ocean star. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance to live." Ho Qingbai said indifferently, "Kneel down and kowtow to me 100 times. Then I'll consider sparing your life." This was called giving him a taste of his own medicine. "You want me to kneel? Ha, I'll make you kneel until your bones break." Hearing Ho Qingbai's words, the people around him sneered. Regardless of the truth of the matter, as guests from the outer space, they naturally stood on Ho Qingbai's side. They looked down on the natives. Look, the strongest person was only at the spirit transformation realm. How could they take him seriously? If you were weak, you would be beaten and bullied. This was the iron law of the cultivation world. No one would sympathize with the weak. The strong could do whatever they wanted. Ling Han smiled faintly. "My patience is limited. If you don't kneel in 10 seconds, I'll kill you." His tone was very calm, as if he was talking about something very ordinary. Ho Qingbai was embarrassed. Ling Han dared to not give him face? He had already revealed his identity. Damn it. "Do you really want to die?" Ho Qingbai sneered. He lightly pressed his chest, and a ray of light surged out, covering his entire body. Immediately, a set of green battle armor appeared on his body. "This is the Flying Cloud armor, which can increase my combat power by 1 star, he said proudly. In the previous blow, Ling Han was only a little stronger than him. The gap was not as big as 1 star. 1, 2, 3. Ling Han counted. Ho Qingbai was furious. Ling Han didn't take him seriously at all. How could this native be so hateful? He gritted his teeth and said, "I'm going to tear you into pieces and feed every piece of your flesh to the dogs." 6, 7. Ling Han continued to count. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. This native was really bold and had a personality. This show was a bit interesting. Reading on a mobile phone was refreshing. Chapter 3704. Ho Qingbai only felt his vision go black, and a figure appeared in front of him. It was Ling Han. He wanted to attack, but as soon as he raised his hand, he groaned in pain. His armor was broken, and he had been hit by the beam of light. He was seriously injured, so how could he have any strength left? Ling Han slapped him and Ho Qingbai was slapped to the ground. Everyone sighed. This was the strength of an array master. They couldn't underestimate him. Look, without the slightest effort, a 2-star genius was defeated, and this was still a formation that Ling Han had set up at the last moment. If he had enough time to prepare, then even if he had to face 10 or even 100 Ho Qingbeis, Ling Han would probably still be the victorious party, right? Just think about those ancient ruins. In fact, there were arrays in them, and many people were trapped in them. Thinking of this, everyone's eyes lit up, and they were even more determined to make friends with Ling Han. Ling Han's heart also jumped. He had seen another path. If he could study arrays to the peak, could he even kill saints? Of course, he didn't know how far he had to go. "Kneel and apologize or die," he said coldly. Since he had said it, he naturally had to do it. Ho Qingbai raised his head. How could he kneel in front of everyone? He sneered, "Do you dare kill me? If I die, my life tablet will immediately shatter, and my father will immediately receive the news. At that time, he will come to kill me. Not just you, but the entire heavenly starry star will be buried with me. Kill me, kill me." Ling Han's eyes sharpened. He hated threats the most. So what if it was a sect master level almighty? At worst, he could use the heavenly flame to burn them. Anyway, he still had 8 chances to use it. But there was one problem. If he used the heavenly flame again, it was very likely that he would absorb the gold origin Holy Land. As long as the other side compared them, they would find that the 2 flames were of the same origin. Naturally, he would be exposed as the real culprit behind the burning of the Holy Land. But so what? As you wish, Ling Han said coldly, his killing intent surging like ice. Everyone grimaced. This fellow was just too decisive, right? He even killed a sect master-level supreme being's heir just like that. Brother Ling, please be lenient. Someone immediately stepped forward to smooth things over. Ho Qingbai is right. If a sect master-level powerhouse arrives, the people here will be plunged into misery and suffering. Even if Brother Ling has a way to escape, the people here are innocent. It was a green-haired young man. His eyes were shining like little suns. It was unknown whether he was from a different race or he was born with a divine body. He smiled at Ling Han. My name is Cheng Fei, and I actually don't know Ho Qingbai, so Brother Ling shouldn't think that I'm speaking up for him. That's right. Brother Ling still has a bright and boundless future ahead of him. There's no need to ruin it here, another person advised. Princess Bai Xiao also walked over and said, forget it. Ho Qingbai quickly apologized to this lady. Cheng Fei shouted at Ho Qingbai. Ho Qingbai's face was deathly pale. He had really been frightened by Ling Han just now. Ling Han's killing intent was like steel and ice, incomparably firm and bone-chilling. This made him realize that Ling Han wasn't just trying to scare him, but really dared to attack. When he thought of this, he was terrified. He was actually going to give up his life just to fight with a native for a moment of anger? Of course it wasn't worth it. Thus, he said to Princess Bai Xiao, I'm sorry I was rude. He swore that he would definitely get his revenge. In the future, he would make Ling Han kneel in front of him and make him suffer a fate worse than death. Meanwhile, he would toy with Princess Bai Xiao until she died. A pair of bitches actually dared to humiliate him. Princess Bai Xiao hurriedly said to Ling Han, forget it, he already apologized. She was really worried about Ling Han and didn't want anything to happen to him. In any case, Ling Han had already stood up for her, and this made her feel sweet in her heart. Just when everyone thought that Ling Han was going to stop, they saw Ling Han raise his leg and suddenly kick out. Pa! Ho Qingbai fell to the ground. Ling Han walked over and pulled his upper body up. This time, Ho Qingbai was in a kneeling position. I told you to kneel and apologize, didn't you hear me clearly? He whispered in Ho Qingbai's ear while his right hand was squeezing the other's neck. You can test my courage and see if I dare to kill you. A terrifying chill immediately swept through Ho Qingbai's body, and he couldn't help but shiver. This killing intent was so cold that it went straight into his heart. He didn't dare to try. Just now, he was already frightened by Ling Han's killing intent. This guy really couldn't be measured by common sense. Maybe he would make a move. In any case, he was already in a kneeling position, so saying another sentence wouldn't make a difference. I'm sorry I was wrong. He said to Princess Bai Xiao again, his face flushed red. As the dignified son of the sect master, how could he bear to kneel and apologize in public? How shameful! How could he lose his face to another planet? Scram! Ling Han casually waved his hand and threw Ho Qingbai out. For a moment, everyone was speechless. This guy was too stubborn. If he said he wanted people to kneel and apologize, then he would definitely make them kneel. Just apologizing was useless. He was really too stubborn. But some people saw something deeper behind this, and that was Ling Han's determination. He wouldn't give up until he reached his goal, and he wouldn't compromise. This was an incomparably precious quality in martial art. He wouldn't give up no matter what difficulties he encountered, and he wouldn't turn back even if he ran into a wall. Instead, he would forcefully break through the wall or smash himself to death. No wonder this guy could move into formations at such a young age. With such perseverance and enough talent, it would be strange if he didn't have such achievements. Brother Ling, I'm Su Feilong. I want to be friends with you. I'm Zhuang Boming. Greetings, Brother Ling. I'm Everyone gathered around wanting to be friends with Ling Han. He was a formation genius and a future formation grandmaster. He was definitely worth befriending. As for offending Ho Qingbai, they were all descendants and successors of sect masters or even venerable level powerhouses. Would they be afraid? Ling Han also became enthusiastic and greeted everyone one by one. These people might become his connections after he entered the universe in the future, so he didn't mind making a few more friends. After talking for a while, he said to Princess Bai Xiao, "Let's go back." Princess Bai Xiao's mind was still filled with the scene of Ling Han forcing Ho Qingbai to kneel. Her heart surged. This man, in order to vent her anger, even beat the son of a sect master-level elite as he pleased, and even forced him to lower his head and kneel to apologize. How could she not be moved? At this moment, she was really willing to give birth to monkeys for Ling Han. Yes, they were indeed monkeys. It didn't take long for the two of them to return to the camp. Ling Han began to set up the formation, preparing to refine the Greenwood Spirit Replenishing Pill. If he wasn't an array master, he would have to first buy the corresponding array foundation and then ask an array master to set up the formation for him. Now, there was no need to go through so much trouble. Ling Han was an array master himself, so he could take care of everything. It began. Chapter 3705. Refining celestial-grade pills was more complicated. Formations alone were not enough. A pill furnace was also needed, which was very important, because the quality of the pill furnace would also affect the quality of the pills. Ling Han did not have a good pill furnace on hand, so he could only use the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower as a replacement. Why was the pill furnace so important? That was because the pill furnace was an artifact for alchemists. It would be fused with a trace of soul, so it would be extremely sensitive to changes in energy. Refining pills was actually using energy to extract medicinal properties, guide them, and fuse them. The more sensitive one was to energy, the higher the chances of refining pills, and the higher the quality of the pills would be. The chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower was Ling Han's artifact. It was made of gold and could be called the strongest pill furnace in the world. Ling Han activated the formation. Boom, the power of heaven and earth surged. The chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower floated up and down gently. Under Ling Han's guidance, the power of heaven and earth was extracted into the 9th floor. Now, only this floor was empty and could be used as the pill furnace space. Ling Han used that trace of soul to make slight adjustments, changing the strength and type of the energy that entered the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower. Materials were thrown out and absorbed by the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower. Ling Han carried out precise control. His consciousness turned into thin threads, inspecting every detail. The refining was carried out in an orderly manner. One of the biggest benefits of using the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower to refine pills was that the furnace would not explode. At most, the pills would be ruined and a portion of materials would be wasted. 3 hours passed. Ling Han could not help but frown. He had failed. The Alchemy Emperor had actually failed. Ling Han recalled the entire process and nodded. The recipe is fixed, but the age of the materials cannot completely match the recipe. So, I need to make slight adjustments. This is my mistake. He started again. After another 3 hours, Ling Han smiled. It was done. His mind moved. 7 green pills flew out of the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower. The quality of the pills is high grade. Ling Han laughed. He had succeeded on his second try, and it was high grade. What was there to be dissatisfied about? If I refine it a few more times, I will definitely be able to reach the supreme grade. However, after refining pills twice, Ling Han's mental strength was also greatly consumed, and he could no longer continue. He would rest first and come back tomorrow. He was not a stingy person, so he gave 2 Greenwood Spirit Replenishing Pills to Princess Bai Xiao and 6th baby. He could only take 1 pill a day. After all, it was a medicine with a certain degree of toxicity. Taking too many would not only be of no benefit to his cultivation, but it would also accumulate pill poison. When it reached a certain level, even a saint would not be able to save him. But for the vast majority of people, this problem did not exist. Who was so rich that they could eat greenwood panacea every day and still have extra? Naturally, Princess Baishao was pleasantly surprised. This greenwood spiritual restoration pill was extremely precious and no one on Heavenly Sea Star could refine it. But after thinking about it, she still accepted it. Well, since I'm in too much debt, I'll pay with my body, she said in her heart. Her face was flushed and she was extremely shy. However, sixth baby didn't want it. She said, "Father, we are special. No celestial medicine has any effect on us." "Hey, could it be that you grew out of the gourd vines so you can't eat vegetables?" Ling Han nodded. He trusted the milk babies very much and believed in their uniqueness. Since sixth baby said that the greenwood spiritual restoration pill had no effect on her, then it definitely had no effect. Ling Han put away the pill. This thing should be one of the most practical pills for the Foundation Establishment realm. Now that there were many Foundation Establishment realm cultivators here, there should be a wide market for it and it could be sold for a high price. Moreover, he had promised the stall owner that he would sell him a portion of the greenwood spiritual restoration pill in exchange for more green foxwood. When the time comes, one will regret not having enough pills, Ling Han said with a sigh. The next morning, when the sun rose, Ling Han first swallowed a greenwood spiritual restoration pill and then began to cultivate. In this way, the effect of the pill could be maximized. Under the guidance of the large sun lotus technique, the power of heaven and earth surged into Ling Han's body. All the apertures in his body were opened, and there were 360 of them, which was 10 times more than the weakest foundation building tier. Naturally, his cultivation speed was also 10 times slower. In addition, there were two mysterious forces working in his body. They continuously transformed into mysterious forces that he could absorb and strengthen the Foundation Establishment realm of immortality. These were naturally the greenwood spiritual restoration pill that he had just taken and the silver arowana that he had eaten earlier. The special characteristic of the silver arowana was that the effect would not be immediately apparent. Instead, it would take a while for the silver arowana to take effect. In particular, the effect of the greenwood spiritual restoration pill was very obvious. Ling Han could clearly feel that his progress was much faster than the day before. I don't know the limit of the Foundation Establishment realm, so I can't estimate my progress. I don't know if I have entered the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. Ling Han rubbed his chin. Forget it, I don't care about it. In any case, as long as I cultivate to the point where I can't advance any further, I will be at the peak of the Foundation Establishment realm. He first concocted a cauldron of pills. This time, the quality of the pills was still high grade, and hadn't leaped into the supreme grade. However, the number of completed pills had reached 8, which meant that Ling Han had actually made some progress in concocting the Azure Would Restore Spirit pill. It had only been one night, and he had only refined one more cauldron, but he had already made such progress. The title of Alchemy Emperor was not just for show. However, his mental energy was almost exhausted. Ling Han didn't want to tire himself out too much, so he didn't refine a second cauldron. He went to the market and found the stall owner from the day before. "Hey brother, it's you," the stall owner said with a smile. "What's wrong? You've wasted all the materials and you want to replenish them?" Ling Han laughed, drew out a pill bottle and handed it over. "Hey, you succeeded?" The stall owner was skeptical. After taking the pill bottle, he opened the stopper and looked inside. He couldn't help but be moved. He had obviously eaten the greenwood spiritual restoration pill before, so he was no stranger to it. This was definitely the real thing, and the quality was extraordinary. "You really succeeded." The stall owner looked at Ling Han in shock. It had only been a day, and he had succeeded. To most alchemists, it was already not bad if they could refine one cauldron of pills out of 10. So although he had sold Ling Han a piece of green foxwood, he didn't think that Ling Han could really refine anything. At least not so quickly. But Ling Han had succeeded, and the quality of the pill was so high. Unbelievable, really unbelievable. "I am Lin Sun, let's be friends," the stall owner said. "Ling Han." Ling Han also smiled, and stretched out his hand to the other. Lin Sun shook hands with Ling Han and said, I come from the Eternal Star, also known as the Herb Garden Star. The environment there is especially suitable for growing celestial medicines. Many celestial medicines that don't grow on other stars can survive on the Herb Garden Star, and they grow well and quickly. Hehe, I came here this time to sell medicinal ingredients. Going to the mystic realm is just along the way. He was really honest. Chapter 3706. Ling Han and Lin Sun chatted for a while. As expected, Lin Sun kept his word and took out a few more sections of fox greenwood to sell to Ling Han. They were much older than the previous section, and the price was quite fair. The two reached an agreement. No matter how many sections of fox greenwood Lin Sun sold to Ling Han would sell the same amount of greenwood spirit-mending pills to Lin Sun. It seemed that Ling Han had made a huge profit, but he was the Alchemy Emperor. His success rate was beyond imagination. For an ordinary alchemist, this was already a very high requirement. Ling Han learned that most of the people on the Herb Garden Star were herb farmers, but there was not a single alchemist. Thus, the herbs produced could only be sold and could not be used to refine pills. Although they were upstream of the pill industry, they did not earn much profit. The majority of the profits were taken by alchemists and medicinal groups. There was no other way. The medicinal groups around the Herb Garden Star worked together to drive down the price, causing the price of raw materials to not be high. Can't you transport the herbs out yourself? Ling Han asked. I thought about it and I tried. Lin Sun shook his head. But there are interstellar pirates outside our star. They stole all our goods, and the result was even worse. Ling Han could not help but sneer. What interstellar pirates? It's most likely those medicinal groups in disguise. Lin Sun sighed. There's nothing we can do. Although our Herb Garden Star is suitable for the growth of herbs, it's not suitable for the growth of martial artists. We can't produce any experts, so we can only be trampled on. Ling Han nodded. Then you've come out this time, firstly to sell medicine, and secondly to become stronger? If I can become a sect master in the future, I'd like to see who dares to bully our Herb Garden Star, Lin Sun said angrily. Ling Han paused and said, in the future, I can sell you 2 greenwood spirit-mending pills every time. Really? Lin Sun's eyes lit up. Really? Ling Han nodded. Thank you. No need. I'm not giving you pills and collecting money. Lin Sun patted Ling Han's shoulder. The greenwood spirit-replenishing pill had always been priceless. Apart from the holy sons and holy daughters of the large sects, other successors could rarely take it. Ling Han had done him a great favor by selling him an extra greenwood spiritual supplement pill. He didn't say any words of gratitude. Instead, he hid it in his heart. He would definitely repay him in the future. Ling Han taking out an extra greenwood spirit-replenishing pill didn't mean much to him. As long as he had enough green foxwood, he, the Alchemy Emperor, didn't need to worry about not having enough medicine to eat. Moreover, he was born on the Herb Garden Star, so he definitely had the means to obtain a large number of precious medicinal ingredients. This network was incomparably useful to him. When Ling Han returned to his tent, he saw that there were already many people waiting for him, wanting to get to know him better. A genius array master was really worth befriending. Ling Han was also a good judge of character. If he could get along well with the other party, he would say a few more words. If he could not, he would not deliberately offend the other party, either. He was just too lazy to deal with them. If he spoke less, the other party would also know what was going on and would not seek a rebuff. A few days later, someone issued a bounty. Whoever could kill Ling Han would be able to obtain 1,000 myriad Tao stones. When Ling Han received the news, he was extremely surprised. How could he receive the bounty? He didn't even know who the person who issued the bounty was. You're actually curious about this? Princess Bai Xiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Shouldn't you be more concerned about who issued the bounty and how to deal with the possible assassins? Ling Han smiled slightly. It's most likely Ho Qingbai who issued the bounty. I'm thinking, if someone else really succeeds and goes to him to claim the bounty, what if he pats his butt and refuses to admit it? Princess Bai Xiao was speechless. Ling Han quickly knew that this kind of bounty was not a joke. Although the universe was huge, after so many years of development, other than the endless edge of the universe, the entire world had already been connected. The interior of the star body was through the star vine, and the connection between the star body and the star body was through the spatial node. On the planet where martial art was developing normally, many people would buy a connection device to connect to the enormous interstellar network and understand the major events that were happening in the universe in real time. It was said that this interstellar network was constructed by an ancestral king in ancient times. He used his great magic power to open up spatial nodes. After the interstellar network was built, it also produced a type of virtual currency, the universe dollar. The stability of the universe dollar was maintained by the power of the ancestral king who built the interstellar network. They had a large number of Dao stones in their hands, ensuring that the universe dollar could definitely be exchanged for Dao stones. With such a foundation, it was possible to trade across the stars. The bounty on Ling Han's head was posted on the interstellar network. Whoever wanted to kill Ling Han had to upload the image of Ling Han's death, which would be recognized by this platform. Then, they would be able to directly transfer the 1,000 universe coins that the bounty holder had previously deducted into their account. Previously, the Xianbei country's internet platform was the prototype of the interstellar network. However, there was no star vine at that time, so they had to rely on satellites and optical cables. As an ancient person from 2,000 years ago, Chen Fengyan definitely knew about the interstellar network. Hey, there's actually such a good thing. Ling Han was surprised. Unfortunately, he did not have a connection device, so he could not connect to the interstellar network. However, there were many extraterrestrial visitors here, so he could borrow them. Ling Han used someone else's connection device to log into the interstellar network. Immediately, an incomparably vast world appeared in front of him. Before this, he was like a frog at the bottom of a well. The things he could come into contact with were incomparably poor. As long as you have enough universe dollars, you can also buy cultivation techniques, pill recipes, and formations. Ling Han nodded. If you want to obtain universe dollars, the fastest way is to charge Dao stones. Many stars have Chang clan's charging points. The Chang clan was the descendant of the ancestral king who built the interstellar network. Controlling such a huge network after countless years, the Chang clan's wealth and power must have reached a terrifying level. Unfortunately, even with such astonishing resources, the Chang clan was not able to produce a second ancestral king. The difficulty of the Emperor's Road could be imagined. However, firstly, the Dao stones in my hands are limited, and secondly, there are no top-up points on Heavenly Sea Star. Then, I can only earn universe dollars first. I can auction the Greenwood Spirit replenishing pill and let others transfer it to me through the interstellar network. No wonder when I was selling the materials, there were people who asked me for my account number. I don't have an account number, but Lin Sun should have one. I'll put the money with him first. I'll ask him what his account number is tomorrow. Ling Han scanned through it. Pill formulas were extremely expensive, and the cheapest immortal-grade pill formulas cost 500 Dao stones. Furthermore, pill formulas were unique, which meant that after you obtained a new pill formula, you could apply for a patent on the interstellar platform. Even if others bought this pill formula from you, they were not allowed to sell it on the interstellar network. The same was true for cultivation techniques and formations. They protected the original creator's labor as much as possible. Of course, to the Chang clan, they could read all the cultivation techniques, pill formulas, and array formations in the world without paying the slightest price. Therefore, it would be difficult for the Chang clan not to be powerful. Chapter 3708. However, those extraterrestrial geniuses came here and paid a huge price, not for business, but because they had some treasures that they didn't need and wanted to use this opportunity to exchange them. Therefore, after a few days, the market became deserted. There were many people shopping and few people selling. In the end, almost everyone was a spectator. Lin Sun also closed his stall. He planned to sell the herbs to Ling Han because he saw Ling Han's genius in alchemy. Although Ling Han could only refine one kind of elixir now, his future was absolutely limitless, and they could cooperate for a long time. The most important thing was that Lin Sun also believed in Ling Han's character. The Hidden Moon realm didn't open for a long time, but those who should have come had already arrived. Everyone was waiting nearby. Some people didn't have much patience and fought every day. Fortunately, due to the majesty of the spirit transformation perfected lords, they didn't dare to kill. Just when Ling Han thought he would wait for Tang Yun to return, the Hidden Moon realm suddenly opened. Without any warning, moonlight gushed out like a heavenly spring. Everyone ran out to see, and saw that the place where the pillar of light had been gushing out had been wrapped in endless moonlight, and from time to time, it was magnificent and spectacular. The Hidden Moon realm is open. Xiao, a figure flew over, standing proudly in the sky, exuding a powerful aura. Jiu Ling perfected Lord Xiao, more figures flew over, but there were pitifully few people who could stand still in the sky. This required at least the cultivation of the life core realm, and among the natives of Heavenly Sea Star, only Chen Fengyan met this standard. The others were all from the cage. The problem was, no matter how big the cage was, how many people could there be? Therefore, there were only a few hundred people standing in the sky now, which was naturally pitifully small compared to the tens of thousands of people on other stars. No wonder those extraterrestrial visitors looked down on Heavenly Sea Star. In terms of strength, Heavenly Sea Star was too weak. Work hard, go. Don't retreat in the face of difficulties, move forward bravely. Those experts all began to instruct their descendants. Very few of them told them to be extra careful, instead encouraging them to take risks. For the inheritance of the sage, shouldn't they? At this time, in order to seize the time, everyone entered the place shrouded in moonlight. Ling Han held sixth baby in his arms and walked over there. Princess Bai Xiao followed closely behind him. He could clearly feel the gazes of many people staring at him. Some of them were very obscure, and some of them were emitting undisguised killing intent. These people might not take 1,000 Dao stones to heart, but killing people in the secret realm was a matter of course. So, they could eliminate a competitor and earn some Dao stones at the same time. After all, this time, there were still no Taoist or Holy Maiden level geniuses coming over. Even if they were the key disciples of the great sects, the cultivation resources they received were still limited. 1,000 Dao stones was still a considerable amount of wealth. As for why there weren't any Dao children or saintesses, could it be that the great sects didn't think that they would be able to reap any rewards? That made sense. This secret realm had existed for millions of years, so there must have been true geniuses who had come here before, but none of them had passed. As time passed, those great sects were too lazy to waste their time on top-notch geniuses. Therefore, these slightly inferior geniuses replaced them. It did not matter if they could not obtain the saint's inheritance, at least they could gain some experience. Was that really so? Ling Han said in his heart, but his feet did not slow down at all. In the ancient ruins, he was not afraid of anyone targeting him. At most, he would fight. When it came to fighting, who was he afraid of among those of the same level? When Ling Han entered the moonlight, a mysterious power surged. It was strange and magnificent. Well, this is the power of teleportation. Ling Han was now well versed in formations. Although the number of formations he could set up was limited, he had no lack of understanding of formations. It was naturally not difficult to determine the type of formation. This secret realm is definitely not underground. It's not even on Heavenly Sea Star, but on a fragment of ancient Heavenly Sea Star. Ling Han took a few more steps, and the moonlight that filled the sky disappeared. He saw a wasteland in front of him, and when he looked up, the starry sky was different. Sure enough, this is definitely not Heavenly Sea Star. Otherwise, the position of the star would not have such a huge deviation. But where is this? Princess Bai Xiao also walked in and looked at the sky in surprise. We should have left Heavenly Sea Star, Ling Han said in a deep voice. Princess Bai Xiao frowned and said, if this is in the universe, why hasn't it been discovered after so many years? This was a problem. Although the vast sea of stars was vast, over the countless years, There must have been starships that explored mineral veins and alchemy star that found this place. Maybe it's the work of a sage. Ling Han thought for a moment. From the outside, maybe this place is a broken meteorite. Princess Bai Xiao nodded and reluctantly agreed with Ling Han's inference. Everyone who entered this place definitely did not appear here. Ling Han remembered clearly that there was a middle-aged man in black who walked in front of him, but when he came out, the man was gone. It was impossible that the other party was fast and had already run away. Ling Han believed in his eyesight. In this short period of time, the other party could have run away from the limits of his eyesight. Therefore, there was only one possibility. Although there was only one door to enter, during the teleportation process, everyone could have been randomly assigned to any corner. It could only be said that it was a coincidence that Princess Bai Xiao was able to follow behind him. "Let's go," Ling Han said excitedly. Those geniuses from previous generations could not get the inheritance of a sage, but it did not mean that he could not. He was the man who obtained the mother gold. Speaking of which, if Wu Qingshu could leave behind some inheritance, I wouldn't have to work so hard. Ling Han thought in his heart. This sage probably admired Great Emperor Wuya too much. He thought that in front of Great Emperor Wuya, his inheritance was not worth mentioning at all, so he simply let him die. "Sigh, I don't mind." Ling Han's face was full of depression. To be able to become a sage, he was almost the strongest existence in the world. He must have obtained countless treasures in his life, and any one of them could save him hundreds or thousands of years of hard work. "Ling Han, someone wants me to take your life." A slightly immature voice suddenly came from behind. Who is this? It feels so pretentious." Ling Han turned around and saw a 15 or 16-year-old youth behind him. He was really still wet behind the ears, and his face was full of childishness. This youth was called Zhuang Bufan. He came from an extraordinary background, and his elder brother was even one of the few geniuses. He had seen his elder brother act pretentiously everywhere since he was young, and it had left an indelible impression in his young heart. Of course, young people like to imitate the people they admired. Therefore, his tone of voice was exactly the same as his elder brother. Very pretentious, very annoying. Chapter 3709. Ling Han looked at Zhuang Bufan with a smile, and said, "Children shouldn't speak like adults. Go home quickly." Zhuang Bufan was furious. He hated it when people called him childish. "Don't look down on me," he said loudly. Suddenly raising your voice is usually because you've been hit on the weak spot, and you've become angry out of humiliation. Ling Han said calmly. When it came to verbal skills, he was naturally very sharp after training with the large black dog. Zhuang Bufan's face instantly turned red. "I'm already 16 years old, not a child." Fine. If you say you're not, then you're not. "Come, sixth baby, give him a candy." "Take it and go home quickly," Ling Han said. "Damn it." Zhuang Bufan looked at the candy that sixth baby handed over, and his eyes were about to spit fire. He had put on a high and mighty front and said, "Someone wants me to take your life," which was full of arrogance. However, who would have thought that Ling Han would not play by the rules? He did not ask who it was, and did not fight with him in a flustered and exasperated manner. Instead, he teased him like he was a child. Now, he was about to explode with anger. No, he could not hold it in any longer. He charged out and punched out. Sixth baby giggled and also leaped out of Ling Han's arms, charging towards Zhuang Bufan. Was a milk baby worthy of fighting with him? Zhuang Bufan humphed and waved his hand, wanting to sweep sixth baby to the side. He was very careful with his palm, and his strength was very gentle. However, when he struck out with his palm, he was shocked and suddenly realized that the entry requirement here was the foundation building tier. So, this milk baby was in the foundation building tier. He was only 2 or 3 steps into the foundation building tier. What the hell was this? However, it was too late for him to change his attack. Sixth baby rushed over with a terrifying power that seemed capable of destroying the stars. She had an innate divine body, and her battle prowess was far superior to that of a normal foundation building cultivator. Fortunately, Sixth baby was more skilled in stealth and penetration and did not strengthen her attack. If it was elder baby, then the power of this violent monster would be many times stronger. Peng, the attack landed, and Zhuang Bufan screamed in pain as he was sent flying. Sixth baby clapped his hands, turned around, smiled, and said in a childish voice, "Done, let's call it a day." Ling Han nodded. "Let's go." This Zhuang Bufan could only be considered a child. Moreover, when he was fighting against sixth baby, he had deliberately used his soft power. For this reason, he did not intend to kill him. "Stop right there." Zhuang Bufan jumped up. "I was just careless." He was unconvinced. Previously, because sixth baby was too young, he didn't even use 1% of his strength. It was an unjust defeat. "You little brat, are you asking for a beating?" Sixth baby pointed at Zhuang Bufan and said, "Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning?" The corner of Zhuang Bufan's mouth twitched. Ling Han's mouth was venomous, but this kid wasn't any better. As expected, people who were not of the same family would not enter the same door. With a shake of his right hand, a long sword had already appeared in his hand. Wang, the body of the sword trembled slightly, and its entire body shone. Vein-like patterns shone, and it emitted a terrifying pressure. "Do you really want to play?" Ling Han laughed. "Come." Zhuang Bufan shouted loudly. "If you can take 10 moves from me, I won't kill you." "Sure." Ling Han's feet moved, and he already appeared in front of Zhuang Bufan. So fast. Zhuang Bufan was shocked. He couldn't even catch a trace of Ling Han. This speed was too fast. His reaction was not slow, and he immediately waved his sword and stabbed at Ling Han. The immortal tool displayed its might, and a large number of runes circulated. Ling Han smiled lightly. He opened his right hand, and with a pull, all the sword chi was absorbed into his palm. "You're courting death." Zhuang Bufan laughed coldly. Hong, the runes in the sword chi exploded, and its power was completely released. However, he immediately discovered that the energy exploded in Ling Han's hand, but it could not break through his opponent's control. "Damn, what kind of hand is that? Is it made of immortal gold? How is it?" Ling Han opened his hand, and the sword chi had already been completely dissolved by him. Zhuang Bufan was speechless. Was this the difference in strength? It was too big. "I'm not your opponent," he said honestly, his face full of disappointment. Previously, he had thought too highly of himself. Thus, when he saw that the gap between him and Ling Han was so wide, he naturally felt incredibly dejected. Ling Han patted his shoulder. "It's normal that you can't beat me. Could it be that you're at the Heaven Foundation Establishment realm, or even the Extreme Foundation Establishment realm?" Zhuang Bufan's eyes lit up. He had just entered the Foundation Establishment realm, so it was normal that he couldn't beat a Heaven Foundation Establishment genius. "No, I've just entered the Foundation Establishment realm," Ling Han said with a serious expression. Zhuang Bufan immediately felt as if he had received 10,000 points of damage. Both of them had just entered the Foundation Establishment realm, but there was such a huge gap between their strength. This showed just how lacking his talent was. Was that supposed to be comforting him? "I'm invincible in the same realm, so you don't need to worry about it," Ling Han said. Zhuang Bufan glanced at Ling Han, and he felt his liver ache. "You're the real pretentious expert. Who would dare say they were invincible in the same realm? In a battle of the same realm, you definitely won't be able to beat my brother," he said forcefully, as if he wanted to convince himself. "Oh." Ling Han smiled. "My brother is ranked around 88,000 in the Star Web Arena," Zhuang Bufan said proudly. Ling Han couldn't help but burst out laughing. What was there to be proud of? However, he quickly retracted his smile because Zhuang Bufan was looking at him with a resentful gaze. "That's indeed extraordinary." Princess Bai Xiao interrupted. "The Star Web Arena includes almost all the cultivators in the universe. Those who can enter the rankings are all super geniuses of a star field." "That's right." Zhuang Bufan felt that he had finally met someone who understood him. "Don't think that my brother's ranking is low. Although he's only around 80,000, he's still a top-notch existence in the Centaur star field. He's also the highest ranked in our Mingji star. Ling Han nodded and said, "Your brother is at the Foundation Establishment realm." "Humph, my brother is only 29 years old, but he's already a casting cauldron," Zhuang Bufan said proudly. Ling Han slapped the back of Zhuang Bufan's head. "You're just a kid. Don't speak like an old man." Zhuang Bufan held his head and looked at Princess Baishao. He hoped that this beautiful big sister could control Ling Han and not treat him like a kid. Unfortunately, how could Princess Baishao help him? Casting cauldron? Then I can't fight with him at the same rank. However, when I connect to the star web in the future, I can spar with him, Ling Han muttered to himself. "You're definitely not my brother's match." Zhuang Bufan had a kind of blind worship for his brother. "What's your brother's name? In the future, you can go and challenge him." Ling Han smiled. "Zhuang Fifan." Ling Han couldn't help but glance at him. "I've discovered that the members of your clan are all quite shameless. One was extraordinary, and the other was extraordinary. You're the shameless one," Zhuang Bufan shouted. He naturally wanted to protect his family's dignity. "Come, be my little brother." Ling Han suddenly had a strange idea. Chapter 3710. Although Zhuang Bufan's name sounded pretentious, being able to reach Foundation establishment at the age of 16 showed that he was indeed talented. Of course, he couldn't be compared to the 7 babies. They were born from the gourd vines. "I don't want to be your lackey," Zhuang Bufan objected loudly. "Hee, you will agree." Ling Han laughed, his eyes somewhat sinister. What do you want to do?" Zhuang Bufan's heart tightened. Ling Han smiled warmly. "I want to hang you on a tree, take off your pants and spank you." Zhuang Bufan's breathing stopped. How could he treat him like this? "How about it?" Ling Han patted Zhuang Bufan's shoulder. "Do you want to be my lackey?" Zhuang Bufan gritted his teeth. If he really had to be spanked naked, he would go crazy. "Then what should you call me?" Ling Han asked patiently. "Boss," Zhuang Bufan said softly. "What? Boss?" This time, his voice was much louder. Ling Han laughed. "I was just joking with you. How could an upright person like me do something like hang someone up, take off their pants, and spank them?" Princess Baishao, 6th baby, and Zhuang Bufan all ridiculed him at the same time. "You can do it, definitely." Ling Han blinked. Since when did his credibility become so low that even a baby like 6th baby had to ridicule him? Forget it, who cares? Ling Han was in a good mood after taking in a lackey. He borrowed Zhuang Bufan's communication device, but it couldn't connect to the galactic network. "There's no network in the secret realm," Zhuang Bufan explained, but his tone was filled with mockery. Ling Han patted his shoulder. "Come, say that again." Zhuang Bufan felt a sharp pain in his shoulder and quickly said, "Boss, there's no network in the secret realm." This sentence was much more respectful. Ling Han nodded in satisfaction and returned the communication device to Zhuang Bufan. If the galactic network couldn't be used, then they wouldn't be able to contact each other quickly. They had to return to the most primitive state of communication. Either they were face-to-face or they were sending out signal flares. It was impossible for them to be far away. Many people have come this time. Not only are there no lack of experts, many of them have also joined hands. However, it is very likely that they have separated after entering. From the looks of it, it will be very difficult for them to gather again. After all, my cultivation level is a little low. If I were to fight against a 3-star or even 4-star genius of the Foundation establishment stage, it would be very difficult for me to defeat them unless I use the chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda. Moreover, if there are too many of such opponents, I will also have a headache. Now, while these people have yet to gather, I should either quickly find the sage's legacy or defeat them one by one. I can't let this drag on for too long. Ling Han thought. The 4 of them walked for a while, but this place was astonishingly big, and it was a boundless wasteland with no end in sight. Ling Han decided to split up and explore in different directions before coming back to regroup. The 4 of them went in different directions and soon disappeared into the horizon. Ling Han did not care whether Zhuang Bufan would come back or not. After all, He had only accepted him as a follower on a whim. He used his art of flight. This place was not suppressed by the power of heaven and earth, so flying was not a problem. Ling Han did not fly forward. Instead, he flew straight up into the sky. After flying for about an hour, he realized that he could not go up anymore. A huge golden net appeared in the sky, preventing him from moving forward. This net was made up of many golden lines. Upon closer inspection, these golden lines were covered with mysterious patterns. This was a sage's spell formation. The people inside could not get out, and from the outside, could it be that this broken planet did not exist at all? Ling Han was very curious, but how could he see through a sage's means? After studying it for a while, he had no clue at all and could only descend. He continued forward, and after about half a day, the wasteland finally changed. Was this an ancient battlefield? Ling Han saw many corpses in front of him, as well as broken armor, weapons, and flags. The scale of the battle back then was definitely shocking. He was not the first person to arrive here. Many people had already entered the ancient battlefield area and were looking for armor and weapons. However, too much time had passed. Even the armors and weapons were tattered. Moreover, it wasn't their first time here. If there really was something valuable, would it be their turn to get their hands on it? Ling Han. Someone turned around, and when he saw him, he couldn't help but smirk coldly. Though I don't care about that little bounty, since you've delivered yourself to me, I don't mind earning some extra income. It was a burly middle-aged man. He looked down at Ling Han with disdain. Ling Han smiled. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Did they all think that he was easy to bully? You are just a small fry on a backward planet. I can finish you off in one move. The other party rushed over and raised his hand, slamming it down on Ling Han's head. Ling Han stretched out his hand and caught the other party's wrist. What? The middle-aged man revealed a shocked expression and hurriedly struggled, but his wrist seemed to have taken root in Ling Han's hand and couldn't move at all. I've always been an easy person to talk to. If you don't come looking for trouble, I won't bother to bully you. Ling Han said. He didn't look at the middle-aged man. Instead, he glanced at the others in the ancient battlefield. However, this doesn't mean that I won't kill. Boom. The heavenly Tao flame surged and instantly enveloped the middle-aged man. Ah! That middle-aged man screamed, but it was only for an instant before he lost his voice. He was burned to ashes by the raging flames. Many people revealed expressions of fear. To most people, 1,000 Tao stones could be considered a small fortune. If it was just a passing matter, then no one would mind stretching out their hands. However, if it was possible to risk their lives, then no one would be willing to do so. It turned out that not only was Ling Han a genius array master, but he was also shockingly strong. It was better not to provoke him. However, there were those who were fearful, and naturally, there were those who didn't care. But a kid who just stepped into the foundation establishment stage. A blue-robed middle-aged man walked over with large strides. He actually had a fish's gills on the side of his mouth, which made him look very strange. Obviously, his original form should be some kind of fish, shrimp, or crab. His transformation was not thorough enough, so only his gills remained. I've long found you unpleasant to the eye. It's just that you've been hiding in the imperial capital. Now that Chen Fengyan is no longer protecting you, killing you is as easy as flipping my hand. The blue-robed middle-aged man said coldly and slammed his palm towards Ling Han. Ling Han swung his fist to meet it. The two forces vibrated and immediately swept up a lot of the wreckage in the vicinity. White bones danced and broken blades flew. The two of them were equally matched in this exchange. Indeed, extraordinary. A mere foundation establishment stage can actually match the power of a peak foundation establishment stage. The blue-robed middle-aged man sneered. Unfortunately, I'm not at the foundation establishment stage but the cast tripod realm. He attacked once again. Chapter 37:12. Was it haunted, or was there some indescribable force supporting it, allowing the dead to rise again? Ling Han was leaning towards the latter. He did not sense any soul fluctuations, So this corpse must have crawled back up under the influence of some kind of force. Ka. The sounds did not stop. Countless corpses were crawling back up on their own. Some were still wearing tattered battle armor, and green flames danced in their eye sockets. Ka. Countless corpses were crawling up on their own. Some of them were still wearing tattered armor, and green flames were dancing in their eye sockets. These corpses all stared at Ling Han, and they all aimed their weapons at him. Their killing intent seethed, and it was almost tangible. But even so, this skeleton horseman still emitted a powerful aura. The sharp aura seemed to have solidified, and it wrapped around the battle spear in his hand. It was as if the heavens were pressing down, and he would be able to pierce through it with a single spear. But even so, this skeleton horseman still emitted a powerful aura. The sharp aura seemed to have solidified, and it wrapped around the battle spear in his hand. It was as if the heavens were pressing down, and he would be able to pierce through it with a single spear. Kill! This skeleton horseman said coldly. Instantly, the army of corpses charged towards Ling Han. Ling Han struck out with a baleful aura, but it had no effect. These were all soldiers of the army of corpses, and they were all dead creatures without souls. They could only move because they were controlled by some indescribable force. Thus, baleful aura attacks were naturally ineffective against them. Then let's switch again. Ho! Ling Han shouted, activating the 6-character Wisdom King mantra. The Buddhist chants were vast and mighty, but they still had no effect. This confirmed Ling Han's guess. Although the army of corpses looked frightening, they were not ghosts. Thus, the Buddhist chants were also ineffective against them. Boom! The army of corpses arrived, and a dense mass of saber chi and sword chi shot over. Ling Han opened up a screen of starlight. Peng, peng, peng. These attacks were all blocked. However, this volley of attacks had almost depleted the power of the starlight barrier. It would only take one more attack to shatter it. Of course, Ling Han would not sit and wait for death. No matter how confident he was, it was impossible for him to foolishly stay where he was and be bombarded by so many skeletons. In that case, no matter how strong he was, he would be blasted into pieces. Shio, 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 he used his movement technique and leaped out of the encirclement. However, there were corpses everywhere. No matter where Ling Han ran to, all he could do was fight. Then let's fight. Ling Han let out a long howl and punched out with both his fists, executing the demon monkey fist. He was incomparably valiant. This army of corpses all had the strength of the human foundation building realm. The power of their joint attack was extremely terrifying, but their defense was relatively weak. Even if they were just grazed by the aftershock of Ling Han's punch, their bones would fly and they would immediately fall apart. Boom! His current strength was incomparably terrifying. When he punched out, the power of his punch could reach a distance of 300 meters, and it still maintained a powerful destructive power. With one punch, he could open up a large area in front of him. He was strangely fierce and domineering, and his battle prowess was terrifying. Meanwhile, the army of corpses had the advantage of endless numbers. It was as if there was no end to them, and they continued to charge over. These skeleton soldiers had no emotions and did not know pain. They only knew to fight, and this made them terrifying killing machines. More importantly, there were far, far too many of them. Just how big was this ancient battlefield? There were corpses everywhere, and now they were crawling up one after another. There was no end in sight. Just how long would they have to fight for? If it was someone else, they would definitely fight and retreat at the same time, wanting to leave this ancient battlefield. After all, there was a limit to one's strength. However, Ling Han did not retreat. In terms of strength, he could only match the peak of the Supreme Foundation building realm, but in terms of secret power reserves, he could completely challenge the Spirit Transformation True Monarch or even the Sect Master level. There was no helping it. Who asked him to have countless planes in his body, and they had all transformed into his secret realms. Come fight, fight, fight. Hum hum hum. Ever since Ling Han stepped onto the path of immortality, he has never fought to his heart's content. He felt very satisfied. Actually, he could have summoned the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower. This was the prototype of a royal weapon, and the chaotic heir's defense was so strong that it would require multiple attacks from the supreme foundational realm to break through. The attacks from the mortal foundational realm were completely negligible. But right now, Ling Han only wanted to fight. He only wanted to use his fists to settle everything. If he could avoid relying on external forces, then he wouldn't. Even if it was his own artifact, it was the same. The intensity of this battle was extremely high. If it was another foundation building tier cultivator, even if it was one at the extreme level of the foundation building tier, they would at most be exhausted after 2 or 3 hours. However, this was completely unsuitable for Ling Han. His strength was endless, and he was completely capable of fighting at this intensity for a few months. Of course, having secret power was one thing, but he also had to consider his body's limit. A few months would be too much, but a few days would be no problem. After a hard night of fighting, the first ray of sunlight appeared at dawn and shone down on the land. Instantly, the ferocious corpses seemed to have lost their motivation. They all fell to the ground and turned into inanimate objects. The sky was bright. Ling Han looked at the dazzling sunlight and thought to himself, these corpses probably only move at night, but what's the point of their existence? He froze and saw a ray of light envelop him. Then, a brand was left on his wrist and disappeared in a flash. Why did they all like to do this? Ling Han touched his wrist and stamped him again. Was this fun? Why not just give him some benefits, such as a huge leap in cultivation? That was more practical. He sat down and planned to cultivate, but he immediately discovered that the power of heaven and earth was extremely weak and could not support his cultivation at all. It could only help him recover his secret power. Was this because the land under his feet was not a celestial body, but a fragment of a celestial body? Was it a slightly larger meteorite? Ling Han still ate a verdant spiritual pill. Since he could not rely on the power of heaven and earth, he could only rely on medicinal pills. He used the Great Sun Lotus technique to push the medicinal power, and the silver arowana was also taking effect. Therefore, even without the help of the power of heaven and earth, Ling Han's cultivation was rapidly increasing. His humanity foundation was becoming stronger and stronger. At first, it was only the size of a soybean, but now it was slightly larger than a human head. This could be considered a telekinesis ritual implement. It could shrink in size, but its weight was extremely light. Therefore, even if it was used to attack, the effect could not be compared to a telekinesis ritual implement. Generally speaking, the limit of humanity foundation was the size of a manhole cover. Based on this calculation, Ling Han would probably need a few more months of cultivation to reach the end of foundation establishment. But he was not an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator, so he did not know how much his humanity foundation could reach. He thought about it and decided to retreat first. After meeting up with 6th Baby, Princess Bai Xiao, and Zhuang Bufan, he would return here and continue to explore this ancient battlefield. Chapter 37:13. Ling Han returned to the place where he had split up with Princess Bai Xiao and the others. Not long after, he saw Princess Bai Xiao and 6th Baby appear one after another. However, Princess Bai Xiao was not alone. There was an imposing young man beside her. "Who are you?" Before Ling Han could start, the young man shouted at Ling Han. His tone was extremely harsh, and he was full of hostility towards Ling Han. Ling Han immediately understood. Princess Bai Xiao had met that person when she was alone. He was probably scared of being a celestial, so he had been following Princess Bai Xiao. Now that he saw her tryst with a man like him, he was naturally jealous. "It has nothing to do with you," he said lightly. "Oh, I know. You're the guy who has a bounty on his head. Your name is Ling something." The young man quickly recognized Ling Han's identity. He snorted and said, "I don't want to kill a nobody like you. People will mistakenly think that I'm greedy for that little bit of Dao stone. Get lost." "Shameless," 6th Baby said coquettishly. "Father, beat him up. Beat him up until his mother can't recognize him." Sigh, even 6th Baby had become so violent. Ling Han turned his head and said seriously, How many times have I taught you? We have to win people over with virtue. Princess Bai Xiao couldn't help but complain in her heart. You want to win people over with virtue? Don't be too violent. Yet the young man was infuriated by Ling Han and Sixth Baby's cooperation. He said menacingly, "How dare you? You actually dare to be impudent in front of me, Zhan Hong. Do you know who I am?" Ling Han smiled. "I know. Didn't you say it yourself? You're called Zhan Hong?" Zhan Hong was stunned, but he felt that something was wrong. "Did your parents want you to achieve great things, so they called you Zhan Hong?" Sixth Baby asked. However, the name and the future are usually opposite. For example, if someone is called Changxing, they usually won't live forever, but will die early. This damn child, what did he say? Then wouldn't my name be Zhan Hong be useless? Zhan Hong's gaze was cold as he said in a deep voice, "There's no benefit in saying such words in front of me. For Lady Bai Zhao's sake, I'll let you go. Get lost immediately." Ling Han smiled at Princess Bai Xiao. "Do you know this idiot?" Princess Bai Xiao shrugged. "He's the one who's always following me. I can't shake him off no matter what." This was also a clarification to Ling Han. "I didn't have the slightest intention to flirt with him." "Bastard!" Zhan Hong roared and charged at Ling Han. He clearly didn't just want to beat Ling Han up. Instead, he wanted to kill him. A blood-red blade appeared in his hand, and he slashed at Ling Han. Shua! Saber chi swept out and transformed into a mournful rainbow that was incredibly thick and long. Ling Han used his immortal crossing finger and tapped out. Bam! The finger energy collided with the saber chi, but it was completely unable to block the saber chi and was forcefully shattered. However, the saber chi still slashed over majestically. It was as if even if there was a fortress of immortal gold in front of it, it could still be broken with a single slash. Zhan Hong revealed a disdainful smile. How powerful was his strength? How could a nobody like Ling Han be a match for him? Pung! The saber chi slashed down, raising a resplendent light and a huge explosion of energy. "A dead man," Zhan Hong said in his heart. With this kind of strength, he dared to be impudent in front of him. He really didn't know where his confidence came from. However, when the energy surged past him, he revealed an expression of surprise. This was because Ling Han was standing there perfectly fine. Starlight flickered on his body, turning into something like a bell. He didn't die. Not only did he not die, but he was also completely unharmed. That starlight was some kind of technique that Ling Han was circulating, or was it activated by a precious tool? Zhan Hong immediately regained his calm. So what if he blocked his blade? It could only be said that the other's strength was still barely enough. Not bad. To be able to block my blade, you can also be considered an expert among the Foundation establishment stage, he said proudly. I am ranked 90,000 in the Star Web arena. Among the younger generation of planet Lin Yangxing, I am in the top 3. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. Ranked in the 200,000, and you still dare to call yourself an expert? Are you an idiot? Zhan Hong shook his head. You really are an ignorant native of a backward land. You have no idea how vast the entire universe is, and how many cultivators there are. Foundation establishment is the first step on the path to immortality, so naturally, there are the most people. I might as well give you a general idea. The total number of Foundation establishment stage cultivators is about 10 billion. As long as you are ranked in the top 1 million, you are a 1 in 10,000 genius. How many Foundation establishment stage cultivators are there on a celestial body? Less than 100,000. Thus, although he was ranked in the 200,000 when placed on a certain celestial body, this result was enough to squeeze into the top 3. He could be said to be a genius among geniuses. Ling Han sighed and looked at him with a pitiful gaze. I didn't realize that you were still a chatterbox. I didn't even ask you, and you just blabbered on and on. Zhan Hong's mouth was half open. Are you a fucking idiot? Didn't you hear my explanation? I am an existence ranked in the top 200,000 in the universe. If placed on a certain celestial body, I would be a super genius in the top 3. Who wouldn't be in awe after hearing this? Or would they be scared witless? You actually said that I'm a chatterbox? He lost his patience and waved his blade again. This time, he wanted to blast Ling Han into pieces. Ling Han smiled faintly and used the demon monkey fist. Instantly, it was as if he had returned to the primordial era, where a demon monkey appeared and wanted to poke a hole in the sky. Bang! His fist was wrapped in heavenly Dao fire, and he met the blade's edge, using his bare fist to fight against the artifact. You're courting death. Zhan Hong sneered. Even if your battle prowess is higher than mine, using your bare fist to fight against an artifact is still an extremely stupid method. But he immediately paled, because when the blade hit his fist, there was actually no blood splattering. Instead, an incomparably thick power attacked him and drilled into his body, as if it wanted to shatter his internal organs. What was more frightening was that a blazing flame also burned over. In front of this flame, his protective mystic power was completely useless. He hurriedly retreated, but it was already too late. The flame melted his protective physique, and the power of Ling Han's fist continuously surged over, causing direct damage to him. Wah! He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. But before it landed on the ground, it had already turned into steam and evaporated completely. Hiss, he had already dodged fast enough and only suffered a little bit of the power of the flame, but it actually had such terrifying power. This is the battle prowess of the top 3 celestial bodies? Ling Han's face was full of disappointment. Although it was just a simple sentence, to Zhan Hong, this sentence was like a knife, stabbing his heart until it bled. Damn it, damn it. He stared at Ling Han. Then come and have a taste of my demonic blood blade. 3 seals, release all of them. He pointed at the crimson saber in his hand 3 times. Boom. Instantly, the ordinary-looking crimson saber released a crimson glow that shot into the sky. A terrifying baleful aura spread out like a tide. Chapter 37:14. The seal on the blood saber was completely broken. Its baleful aura surged and soared into the sky. Zhan Hong revealed a proud expression. This was a precious treasure that had been passed down through the generations of the Zhan clan. Although its grade was not high, every generation's most outstanding member of the Zhan clan would use it to slay their enemies and drink their blood. After countless years of killing, this saber had drunk the blood of countless people, forming an endless baleful aura. Usually, it was sealed to prevent the killing intent from leaking, so it looked very ordinary. However, once the seal was removed, it would become the most powerful magic treasure in the Foundation establishment realm. However, after opening the seal, the killing intent would leak out. This was something that could not be helped. Zhan Hong felt that it was a pity and also a bit proud. He was the most outstanding descendant of the Zhan family in this generation, which was why he had the right to use the sky blood saber. You can die without regrets since you forced me to open the seal on the evil blood saber. He didn't waste any time and immediately charged at Ling Han. Hong, a baleful aura circulated. Even though Princess Bai Xiao wasn't facing it head-on, her pretty face was still pale. Her heart felt like it was being tugged at by an ice-cold hand, and it was extremely uncomfortable. If she was like that, what about Ling Han? Princess Bai Xiao couldn't help but feel anxious. Her concern caused her to be in a mess. Her delicate hands involuntarily clenched into fists in extreme nervousness. However, Ling Han did not take it to heart at all. His willpower was incomparably firm, and his immortal foundation was incomparably solid. He was the only one who could intimidate others. How could others possibly affect him? However, the power of the evil blood saber was not to be underestimated. With each slash, the blood shadow boiled. It was extremely terrifying. The fiendish aura of the demonic blood saber increased the sharpness of the saber. Even Ling Han didn't dare to face the saber with his bare fists and could only avoid it head-on. Prepare to die. Zhan Hong laughed crazily. When the seal on the evil blood saber was undone, not only would the fiendish energy suppress the opponent, but it would also affect him. It was hard to say whether he was controlling the evil blood saber or the evil blood saber was controlling him. Ling Han snorted. He had several ways to defeat Zhan Hong. For example, with the help of a teleportation array, he had full confidence that he could suppress his opponent. For example, he could summon the heavenly Tao flame and burn his opponent to death. This was a flame that even saints would frown at. It would be easy to burn a small foundation establishment cultivator to death. However, he had used it once, and Ling Han only had 8 chances left to use it. Of course, he didn't want to waste it on Zhan Hong. Also, he could use close, yet worlds apart, and then use the heavenly Tao flame energy and destruction energy to find his opponent's weak points to attack. That would also work, but it would take some time. Ling Han pushed these plans to the side. His opponent had a prized artifact, so did he. The primal chaos Polaris Thunder Pagoda appeared. Wang, this supreme treasure appeared, floating above Ling Han's head. Strand after strand of chaotic energy descended, and the light of lightning flickered. This time, the precious artifact did not conceal itself, and instead emitted a supreme aura. The aura emitted by the demonic blood saber was immediately suppressed, and the range of the demonic aura kept shrinking. In the end, it retreated back into the saber. Damn, what's going on? Zhan Hong was dumbfounded. It was as if he had to pee and had just released it, but a peerless elite suddenly walked in front of him, scaring the pee back. But that was the demonic blood saber, and it had drunk endless blood. It was already in existence filled with demonic aura, and it was actually afraid? This was unimaginable. The aura of that pagoda was too astonishing. What kind of aura was that? Strands of it fell down, yet it felt heavier than a star. There was also that lightning. It seemed like even if he was struck by it, even if it was him, he would only be smashed into pieces. What treasure is this? Zhan Hong stared at the chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda, his eyes filled with greed. How can a dead person have so much curiosity? Ling Han charged over and punched with both fists. Zhan Hong hurriedly swung his saber to meet it, but the demonic blood saber in his hand was restricted, and he could not use any power at all. And when the blade hit the chaotic energy, it could not break it at all. How heavy was that? Boom! Bolts of lightning shot out from the chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda, blinding. This was a future Imperial weapon. Even if its power was only at the Foundation Establishment level now, it was still the overlord of Foundation Establishment. Bolts of lightning shot out, and Zhan Hong could not dodge them at all. Instantly, he cried out in pain, and the smell of meat quickly spread. Oh, a little burnt. Ling Han was still teasing him. Zhan Hong was furious and anxious. He was a proud prodigy. Was he going to be killed by someone? But while he still had many secret techniques that he had not used, the demonic blood saber was his strongest trump card. It was already suppressing Ling Han, so what was the point of using other techniques? If he continued fighting, he would definitely die. He revealed a pained expression, but he still took out a talisman without hesitation and slapped it on his body. This was the 10,000-mile escape talisman. It could instantly send him 10,000 miles away. It was his trump card to save his life. Want to run? Ling Han's eyes were sharp and he humphed. Boom! The chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda spun lightly, and bolts of chaotic aura instantly pressed towards Zhan Hong. Zhan Hong's body immediately made the sound of his bones cracking. His entire body shrunk, and then with a bang he lay on the ground. The true chaotic aura was as heavy as a planet. Because of Ling Han's realm, it could not reach such a terrifying level, but it was still not something a Foundation establishment could contend against. At least Zhan Hong could not. Ah! Zhan Hong screamed, and the bones all over his body were still cracking. This pressure was too terrifying, and even his internal organs were being squeezed intensely. He could explode into a paste at any time. Ling Han easily confiscated the 10,000-mile escape talisman and the demonic blood saber. He could not help but laugh. Don't you know that I am a famous thief? Among those who participated in the Metal Essence Fruit Festival, there should still be legends about him, right? Of course, everyone now thought that the masked man was Nyo Janhua. I admit defeat, Zhan Hong said through gritted teeth. This was a great humiliation to him. He was one of the top 3 young geniuses on Linyang planet, but he had actually been defeated so miserably. Alright, then accept your fate. Ling Han threw a punch, and bang, Zhan Hong's head exploded. The heavenly flame rolled out, and Zhan Hong's corpse was instantly burned to ashes. Zhan Hong would definitely not die in peace. I have already admitted defeat, so why are you still so ruthless? Of course, Ling Han would not leave any future trouble. There was no need to be polite to someone who wanted to kill him. After all, this was a mystery realm, and if he died, he could only accept his fate. Wait until nightfall. If Zhuang Bufan still hasn't come, then we won't wait for him, Ling Han said. Princess Bai Xiao and Sixth Baby both talked about their experiences. After walking a long way forward, they entered an ancient battlefield. Then, at night, the corpses came to life and attacked them. Princess Bai Xiao charged back immediately, and Sixth Baby's attributes were special. He could directly escape into the void and would not be attacked at all. If it were not for the fact that they had agreed to meet up a day later, she could have easily advanced. Chapter 37:16. The specialty of the skeleton soldiers was that they were not afraid of death and were very strong in combat. However, their weakness was that they were very simple-minded and stupid. They only knew how to attack. If they were destroyed, then so be it. They would still be good skeletons the next night. In addition, the defense of these skeleton soldiers was extremely weak. It could be said that they were at the level of trash. This made them especially stupid and fragile when they encountered the array. When a beam of light hit them, they had no defense at all. Several skeleton soldiers were blown up by the beam of light. Ling Han's array could shoot out 36 beams of light at the same time. After a round of shooting, at least 100 skeleton soldiers were destroyed. The efficiency was extremely high. This allowed Ling Han to make time to prepare dinner. As for Princess Bai Xiao, she only needed to destroy a few that slipped through the net. The intensity of this battle was completely within her capabilities. Of course, the Sixth Baby did not appear. Once she appeared, she would attract a large number of skeleton soldiers, which would greatly increase the burden. After all, although the power of the Matrix was extraordinary, there were still gaps between the beams of light. They could only fire 1 round every second. Even so, in comparison, the two sides could be said to be 2 different worlds of ice and fire. Ling Han and the others were extremely relaxed. They actually had the time to prepare dinner. On the other side, the remaining people in the bitter battle had to seize the time to take pills to recover their secret power. They did not have the mood or time to do anything else. Was this the role of an array master? A considerable number of people were filled with regret. If they had known this would happen, they would have teamed up with Ling Han. No wonder he was so confident. It was not that he was too arrogant, but that array masters were truly extraordinary. In fact, Ling Han had another way to resist these skeleton soldiers. That was the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower. This future Imperial weapon only needed to release chaotic aura, which skeleton could break through. However, there were too many outsiders now. Ling Han naturally would not reveal the secret of the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower. Come, let's eat. Ling Han had already prepared the food and called out to Sixth Baby and Princess Bai Xiao. Sixth Baby immediately appeared. Eating was one of her hobbies. But as soon as Sixth Baby appeared, it immediately caused the nearby skeleton soldiers to go crazy. They surged over like a surging tide. Princess Bai Xiao was flustered. Although she was also a 1-star genius, she had yet to enter the Foundation establishment realm. Ling Han smiled and pointed out casually. The immortal conquering finger was imbued with some heavenly Dao flame energy. The destructive power of the finger energy was astonishing. Pa. It destroyed at least a dozen skeleton soldiers. Come and eat, don't worry about it, he said. His 10 fingers moved about, and streams of energy shot out. No matter how many skeleton soldiers attacked him, he could easily block them. After all, he still had the help of the formation. Princess Bai Xiao also began to eat. For cultivators of the immortal path, food was not necessary, but if they were always plagued by hunger, it would definitely affect their battle strength. Seeing how relaxed the three of them were, Jin Jingtian and the others felt as though they were going crazy. This is too exaggerated. Are you here for a camping trip? Let's go. Jin Jingtian immediately made a decision. Yes, with the help of the formation, we can reduce a lot of pressure. The others nodded. This group of people slowly moved in Ling Han's direction. They couldn't move too fast, or they would suffer heavy losses if they messed up their formation. However, fighting positional warfare to resist the skeleton army's assault and facing the skeleton army's assault were two different things. The difficulty was on a completely different level. As a result, it was very difficult for them to advance. It took them nearly 20 minutes to finally reach Ling Han's group of three. But the formation didn't differentiate between humans and skeleton soldiers. Naturally, they would be shot at if they charged in. Those people were in a sorry state, but there were many of them, so they still managed to force their way in. Furthermore, they had taken on a portion of the firepower, allowing the number of skeleton soldiers to charge through the formation to increase dramatically. Ling Han couldn't help being furious. These people were really selfish. Get out of here. He shouted and attacked Jin Jingtian and the others. Ling Han, you're really selfish. In the face of danger, you don't work together to get through it. Instead, you attack us. Jin Jingtian attacked first and rebuked Ling Han. Everyone nodded. You clearly have the ability to help everyone. Furthermore, you've already set up the formation, so you don't need to waste any energy. If you don't waste any energy, why not? Too petty, too selfish. Who was the selfish one? What reason did Ling Han have to help these people? They weren't related to him at all. Previously, when he was setting up the formation, why didn't these people help him? Now that he had finished setting up the formation, these people saw that there was a chance to benefit from it, so they all squeezed over with expressions of righteousness. Could they be any more shameless? Ling Han snorted. Since you don't want to scram, then I'll kill until you're all terrified. Boom, he used the three styles of the war god. The energy of heaven and earth instantly surged toward him with him as the center. However, this energy couldn't be used for cultivation, so it could only stay in his body for a short while before it was all blasted out. This wasn't just the eruption of his strength, but also the addition of the energy of heaven and earth. It was incomparably majestic. Instantly, human figures flew into the air, dancing in the air. Ah! Someone let out a miserable scream. Those who fell into the army of skeletons wouldn't be merciful, and they directly killed them with their ice-cold blades. In just a short moment, 5 people had already died. Ling Han, you've really lost your mind. Jin Jingtian angrily rebuked. Ling Han only sneered coldly. Did he have any obligation to protect others? Not at all. Moreover, this was a treasure hunt in the mystic realm. Everyone was fighting for that sliver of fortune, and they were originally competitors. He had already clearly stated that he wouldn't form a team with them, yet they wanted to bask in his glory and were rejected by him. Yet they still insisted on coming over. Did he deserve to be taken advantage of? He once again used the second style of the 3 styles of the war god. A majestic power swept over. Pa, pa, pa! Instantly, human figures flew into the air, like heavenly maidens scattering flowers. Miserable screams rang out again. This time, another 3 people were blasted into the air and turned into skeleton soldiers. Ling Han, you've gone too far. Kill him. Everyone's eyes were bloodshot as they charged at Ling Han. Actually, if they hadn't come over, they could have completely blocked the skeleton soldiers' attacks. However, it would have been very exhausting. They wanted to take advantage of the situation, but not only did they fail to do so, they also suffered heavy losses. Ling Han's gaze was cold. These people disgusted him. This baby is going to die from anger. 6th baby said in a childish voice as she attacked everyone. She had an innate divine body and was naturally powerful. More importantly, she could escape into the void, and no attacks could hit her. This made everyone speechless. Only Princess Bai Xiao was the weakest. She had already put on her armor to increase her defense so that she wouldn't cause trouble for Ling Han. However, the people present were all shrewd, and they immediately saw this weakness. Capture this woman, Jin Jingtian said. Once they captured Princess Bai Xiao, they would be able to threaten Ling Han. Chapter 37:17. Despicable. Princess Bai Xiao gritted her teeth. Ling Han's expression was natural. This is their nature. They are just that vile. He had lived in the origin world for eons and naturally had a deep understanding of people's hearts. What ugly faces had he not seen before? Killing them was good enough. He protected Princess Bai Xiao while attacking in a frenzy, alternating between the heavenly Tao flame and the destructive energy. His attacks were incomparably violent, and no one dared to take them head-on. The scene was very chaotic. Now, there were three parties: Ling Han's group, Jin Jingtian's group, and the skeleton soldiers. All three parties were currently in a hostile state. However, Ling Han and Jin Jingtian's group were intelligent, after all. If they encountered danger, they would first give up fighting amongst themselves and focus on dealing with the skeleton soldiers, and only then would they target each other. The formation was also displaying its might. Light pillars danced chaotically as if creating a dazzling stage. As time passed, Jin Jingtian's group finally couldn't hold on any longer. They had to face the attacks of Ling Han and the skeleton soldiers at the same time. This was much more dangerous than facing the skeleton soldiers alone. Retreat, retreat, retreat. Jin Jingtian gave the order, and everyone hurriedly retreated from the formation. They formed a new formation to block the skeleton soldiers' attacks. Fear lingered in their hearts, and they were filled with terror toward Ling Han's battle prowess. Who would have thought that a formation master could actually have such terrifying combat strength? They couldn't even fight back. Of course, this was also related to the environment. With so many skeleton soldiers joining in on the fun, they had to split up a lot of their combat strength. When the sun rises, we must slaughter this person, Jin Jingtian said in a cold voice. Everyone nodded. In their eyes, Ling Han was truly despicable. There was clearly a formation that could block the army of corpses, yet he had forcefully kept them outside, and had even caused the deaths of many of them. Who were they? Which one of them wasn't an outstanding descendant of a great sect? Even if they weren't the best, they were still among the best. A mere native dared to trick them. They naturally couldn't tolerate it. The long night finally passed, and the first ray of sunlight shone down. Immediately, all the skeleton soldiers lost their strength and collapsed to the ground. Immediately, Jin Jingtian and the others leaped out and surrounded Ling Han and the other two. You guys haven't learned your lesson yet. Ling Han glanced at these people, his killing intent surging. There aren't any shrimp soldiers and crab generals on the ground to help you this time. Moreover, we won't be stupid enough to step into the formation. From his point of view, Ling Han's battle prowess was indeed extraordinary, but the real threat came from his array. Therefore, if he didn't step into the formation, Ling Han's battle strength would be halved. You guys stay here, Ling Han said to Princess Bai Xiao and Sixth Baby as he strode out of the matrix. Jin Jingtian and the rest were stunned. What was going on? Ling Han actually walked out on his own? If you were in the formation, we would still be a little afraid and would only be able to use long-range attacks. But now that you've come out, what else do we have to be afraid of? You're really courting death, Jin Jingtian said coldly. Let's attack together and kill him. Everyone was brimming with killing intent. Ling Han shook his head. A bunch of useless chickens and pottery dogs. I'll send you on your way so you don't stain my eyes. Arrogant. Seeing that Ling Han was getting closer and closer, and was already far away from the formation, Jin Jingtian's heart was also becoming more and more certain. In his eyes, Ling Han was already a corpse. Kill! These people all shouted loudly as they charged toward Ling Han. No matter how much of a genius he was, there were still more than 30 of them, and there was no lack of Paramount Foundation establishment geniuses among them. A single move from each of them would be enough to beat him to the ground. Jin Jingtian also felt that Ling Han was purely courting death. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't think of any way Ling Han could turn the tables. Ling Han smiled faintly and took out his immortal Tao Foundation stone. Yes, the Immortal Tao Foundation Stone. Everyone was stunned. What was the meaning of this? Did he think that just because he was a Paramount Foundation establishment cultivator, he could use the Immortal Tao Foundation Stone to intimidate others? Too naive. There was no lack of Paramount Foundation establishment cultivators here. A terrifying aura spread out. Everyone's faces paled, and they felt a strong sense of suffocation. They couldn't move, as if they were being suppressed by heaven and earth. If they took another step forward, it felt like their Immortal Tao Foundation Stone would shatter. What was going on? Could it be because of the Immortal Tao Foundation Stone? Everyone stopped. They didn't want their Immortal Tao Foundation Stone to shatter, even if it was just a possibility. It was different. It really was different. Everyone stared at Ling Han's Immortal Tao Foundation Stone. Its patterns were different from theirs. It exuded a primordial aura, as if it had existed for all eternity. How could there be such a terrifying Immortal Tao Foundation Stone? Ling Han had even taken out his Immortal Tao Foundation Stone. Naturally, he was determined to kill everyone here. Wang, the Primal Chaos Polaris Thunder Tower, also appeared above his head. Streams of primal chaos poured down, able to suppress the heavens and suppress the earth. What treasure is this? My 3 stars whip is trembling. It seems to have encountered an emperor among treasures. Heavens, first it's the Immortal Tao Foundation Stone with the power of suppression, and now it's this terrifying tower. Just what is this kid's background? Declined land. Declined land. How could a declined land give birth to such a genius and give birth to such a treasure? Everyone was shocked. Whether it was Ling Han's Immortal Tao Foundation Stone or the Primal Chaos Polaris Thunder Tower, they both made them feel endless fear. This was the suppression of a higher level. Jin Jingyan, however, snorted and said, "What are you panicking for? There are more than 30 of us here. Also, think about it. What if we could obtain such a treasure and cultivate such a Immortal Tao Foundation Stone?" Everyone's eyes immediately lit up, and they were filled with incomparable greed. Although the Primal Chaos Polaris Thunder Tower could only be obtained by one person, Ling Han's Immortal Tao Foundation Stone should have been formed by cultivating some kind of secret art. In that case, if they could cultivate this secret art, wouldn't they be too awesome? Once the Immortal Tao Foundation Stone appeared, who could compete with it? Jin Jingtian was right. They had more than 30 people, and this was the perfect opportunity to take down Ling Han. Otherwise, if it was a one-on-one battle, would they have any chance of winning? Thinking of this, they were all filled with the desire to fight, and they were completely swayed by greed. Ling Han shook his head. Death is at hand, and yet you still have greedy thoughts. How foolish. He strode forward, and the Immortal Tao Foundation Stone and the Primal Chaos Polaris Thunder Tower displayed their might at the same time. The two could be said to be supreme existences releasing their might at the same time. One suppressed people, and the other suppressed treasures. Under the double suppression, even if they were limited by their cultivation level and could only unleash the might of a Foundation Establishment cultivator, their opponents were only at the Foundation Establishment stage. Everyone's expressions were ugly. Most of them couldn't even muster 10% of their combat power. Even a genius like Jin Jingtian could only unleash 1/3 of his strength at most. This was simply terrible. Chapter 37:18. A Beautiful Romance. The supreme cornerstone of the celestial path and the monarch weapon that would suppress everything in the future appeared at the same time. What kind of crushing effect was this? Everyone's bodies trembled, and they found it difficult to even breathe. How could they fight back? Jin Jingtian roared and charged at Ling Han. He was the organizer and leader of this temporary alliance. Now, he had to be the first to stand out. Otherwise, this team would be finished. He held a sword in his hand. With a tap of his foot, his figure broke through the air. Unfortunately, he was suppressed by Ling Han's cornerstone of the celestial path. He could only use less than 30% of his combat prowess. The sword in his hand was also an instrument, but it was suppressed by the monarch weapon and had no power. It could only be seen as a tool embryo. What kind of combat prowess could Jin Jingtian have? Ling Han met him and punched with both fists. Pim 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 pim. He broke through Jin Jingtian's defense and punched him more than 10 times. He did not even look at Jin Jingtian and rushed toward the others. Peng, peng, peng. He punched one person at a time. As the power of his punches surged, everyone was sent flying. There were no exceptions. Before the first person landed, the second person had already flown up. Instantly, shadows danced in the air. At this time, Jin Jingtian slowly turned around. However, because of this movement, his entire body suddenly disintegrated and turned into a pile of flesh and broken bones. Just then, Ling Han's punches had already shattered his body into pieces. However, he was a genius of the foundational level after all. His breathing was extremely long, so he did not die immediately. However, the moment he moved, he collapsed. Everyone was shocked. This was Jin Jingtian, the strongest among them. However, even the strongest had fallen to such a state. Who would have the courage to fight against Ling Han? The remaining 20 or so people hurriedly turned around and ran, completely losing their courage. However, this was an ancient battlefield. Who could run fast? The murderous intent in the air was like knives that could easily cut through skin and tear apart bodies. Xiao, Ling Han began a massacre. The aura of primal chaos descended. He completely ignored the existence of the murderous intent and could use his speed to the extreme. After all, this secret realm was only built by a saint. It could perfectly suppress most people. However, the chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda was a prototype Emperor weapon. It was more than enough to protect one person. Otherwise, if a monarch armament were to appear, it would only need to shake it lightly to cause the entire secret realm to collapse. One side could only exert a third or, at most, half of the speed of sound, while the other could reach 20 times the speed of sound. Who would be able to defeat it? Screams rang out incessantly as Ling Han unleashed his full battle prowess. His left fist was filled with the heavenly Dao flame, while his right fist was filled with the destructive energy. He did not have a deep grasp over these two types of high-level energy, so he could only draw out a tiny bit of it. However, even that tiny bit of power was terrifying enough. With a single punch, his opponents were either burned to ashes or completely annihilated. None of them required another punch from him. Princess Baishao was dumbfounded. Was Ling Han really a human Foundation establishment cultivator? No, no, no. Even if he was at the Foundation establishment stage, could he be this strong? Monster, peerless genius, any kind of praise could be given to Ling Han, and there would not be the slightest bit of exaggeration. In less than 5 or 6 minutes, more than 30 people were all killed. Only then did Ling Han put away the Immortal Path Foundation Stone and the chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda, and he began to search these people for treasures. He had already killed them, so was he going to waste them? Unfortunately, the communication device was bound to his soul. Even if he took it, he could only browse the interstellar network. He could not complete transactions, participate in arena battles, or other core elements. Dad, you're amazing. Sixth baby praised. Ling Han laughed. Of course. This was very arrogant, but Princess Baishao felt that Ling Han was being modest. If this kind of battle record was revealed, it should be able to shake the entire universe. You should be invincible in the Foundation establishment realm, right? She said emotionally. Ling Han shook his head. It's not that exaggerated. If I use all my trump cards, I should have no problem fighting against a 4-star genius in the Foundation establishment realm. However, if a 5-star genius in the Foundation establishment realm, or 2 or 3 4-star geniuses in the Foundation establishment realm comes, I probably won't be able to handle them. After all, whether it was him or the chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda, they were both only in the Foundation establishment realm. Princess Baishao was speechless. This pretense was really high profile. Let's go. They hurriedly set off. If they did not hurry during the day, they could only fight hard at night. There was no way they could advance. A day passed, and the sky darkened in an instant. Needless to say, all the skeletons stood up at almost the same time. At this point, aside from the normal skeleton soldiers, the number of skeleton knights had also increased. They all sat on tall bone horses and pointed at Ling Han and the others. Woo, ancient war drums sounded, and the low sound of a bugle horn soared into the skies. All the skeleton soldiers began to move, charging towards Ling Han and the others. Since the chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda's power had already been exposed, Ling Han did not hide it anymore. He summoned it and floated above his head. Streams of chaotic aura descended, and bolts of lightning struck out continuously. The power of this lightning was terrifying. When it struck the skeleton soldiers, it directly blew them into pieces. They probably would not be able to assemble again the next day. As expected of a sovereign weapon. Even though it was only a prototype, its destructive power was still very strong. Ling Han's group did not need to defend at all. The chaotic aura descended, and it was not something that a single skeleton soldier could break. According to Ling Han's estimation, in order to break the defense of the chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda at this stage, one would need to be at least a 4-star genius in the Foundation establishment realm. This was why Ling Han had said before that if he used all his trump cards, he could fight such a super expert. As for the skeleton soldiers, no matter how many there were, it was useless.